everyone, I'm Steph,
And I'm Megan.
and welcome to another episode of Late Night Reads.
This week we are diving into the magical world of romantasy and covering A Soul of Ash and Blood by Jennifer Armentrout.
So let's start with why we selected this book. So after the end of the War of Two Queens with Poppy killing and is bitch and Sarah coming to help somehow, we still have a lot of questions on like how that happened and theories.
Yeah.
Especially when we learn that the gods typically go into stasis when they're injured or use a lot of ether. We were assuming at the end of that book that Poppy was going to go into stasis, which is exactly what happens. So, super excited to see that and also kind of hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
And then Casteel he's been at the top tier of our book boyfriend list. And personally, this book, I think, raises him like even higher on the list because it's a combination of like endearing and also heartbreaking to see like his side of the story when they first come together. We also learn more about what it was like for him when he was held captive, which I always thought I wanted to know more of, and now I kind of wish I didn't. So,
Yeah.
but the lengths this man has went to protect her and how much he's truly cared for her for how long has been really amazing. Plus, we've loved learning more about Casteel and Kieran's relationship, including Kieran's first thoughts on Poppy, and we get some answers to some questions we've been curious about that we're going to talk more about. And then finally, an entire book in Casteel's POV. Yes, please. I loved it. And I'm really hoping that we're going to get to see chapters in Kieran's POV in the next, like in the future book, The Primal of Blood and Bone, when it comes out.
Yes. That would be so much fun.
I'm manifesting that.
Let's hope. And I seriously was just like in love with Casteel already, of course. But yes, this bumped him up so much. Just like his banter and getting inside his head and how he thinks. And you're just like, can you be real? Can you?
Right.
I love you. I need you.
Well, because I think so many people after From Blood and Ash, there was like a lot of anger towards him for like lying to her and feeling like he misled her. I think you and I didn't see the story in that perspective as strongly. But then reading it from his perspective, like this man was tormented.
Yeah.
The entire time. And his feelings for her were real throughout everything. It's just...
Yeah. I think it's fun. I think everybody should do a little bit of this, like having the main male character, like have their point of view, like either during the book or like as a separate entity and just like, oh, okay, yes.
Yes. And I love it when we get like bonus chapters. I know that like in the Empyrean series, we've seen some bonus chapters from like Zane's perspective, but I want like an entire book.
Yes. I want to know. Okay.
I know all
moving forward. Here are a few things that you should know also about our author, Jennifer Armentrout. So she is a New York Times best-selling author and writes young adult, paranormal, science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary romance. So we definitely consider the Blood and Ash series as well as the Flesh and Fire series to be an adult romantasy based on its adult content. If you know, you know, obviously. And Jennifer herself has a full house. She has a husband, a dog, multiple alpacas, goats, and sheep. She was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, which is a group of rare genetic disorders that involve a breakdown of and death of cells in the retina, which will eventually result in loss of vision. That really sucks, obviously, and she's very passionate about educating people on the varying degrees of blindness and has a really good cause behind all of this. So props to her, and so excited that she can just continue her journey as an author throughout all of this.
So before we jump into discussing this book, a couple of key reminders. This episode will contain spoilers. We assume if you're listening, you have read this book. We also assume you've read the previous 4 books in this series, as well as the first 2 books in the Flesh and Fire series. There are theories that kind of cover both, so we are talking about that. You have been warned. And as all of the books in this series, there are some topics that will be sensitive for some readers, and we're going to talk about some of those on the podcast. Anxiety, assault, blood, child death, regular death, depression, emotional abuse, kidnapping, medical trauma, murder, physical abuse, PTSD, self-harm, sexual assault, sexual harassment, torture, violence, war.
Basically all of them. Yeah.
right?
So now let's talk tropes. So talking trope to me. The tropes for this book are a little bit different because we're, again, going back and forth between like the present day and the time period of when the first book occurs in the series, the Blood and Ash. So we've included some of the tropes that are relevant to both of the times. So first off, we have royalty. Poppy and Casteel are the king and queen of Atlantia, and they may also now be the king and queen of Solus, perhaps? Yep. It's TBD. And does Poppy, being the primal of life and death, make her the queen of the gods too? Perhaps? We have questions on that one. We'll see. Next, we have touch her and die. I mean, obviously. Like, in the present day, Casteel and Kieran would literally burn down the world for Poppy and kill anyone who even attempts to bring her harm. And Delano, I would say, also falls into this camp. We see a similar behavior from Hawk when he's around Poppy as Casteel, retelling the entire story from his perspective. Again, touch her and die. Hence, all the people hanging in the wall, like on the wall in the hall, you know. Next, we have fated mates. They're heartmates. Enough said. But it's cool to see throughout the book, like, the different inclinations of that they are heartmates. You're like, yes, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. Because you're heartmates and you don't know it yet. Which is fun to see. Next, we have Chosen One. So she's not just a god, but a primal god. I mean, you can't get more chosen than that, honestly. Like, you are literally being the primal of blood and bone and the true primal of life and death. Those two essences have literally never existed in a single primal before. Plus, in the past, she was literally called the Chosen One as the Maiden. So she has that trope backwards and forwards all tied up inside of her. Next, we have marriage of convenience. Originally, Casteel plans to marry Poppy as a way to just protect her, and he doesn't realize that he truly loves her when he announces these plans. It's a way for him to just potentially save his brother and keep Poppy safe, but we know that's going to work out in both of their favors in a different way. And lastly, we have bad boy. I mean, come on. Casteel used to be called the Dark One. You can't get more bad boy than that. I mean, just love it. Definition of bad boy.
Very much. All right, so in terms of every magical twist, this book picks up almost immediately after the War of Two Queens, and we get to see Casteel, Poppy, Kieran, Delano, and Nektas in the tunnels below Wayfair Castle, searching for Eris. And so right away, we knew this book was going to be different because it started in Casteel's POV, but it didn't say that below the chapter headings like we got in the War of Two Queens. It also had the chapter title of Present One, rather than numbered chapters like we've seen in previous books. So it didn't take very long until we knew our theory of Poppy going to stasis was going to happen, and this entire book was going to be in Casteel's POV.
Yes.
So one interesting point that Casteel makes about the battle in the Bone Temple, because as we see kind of like his perspective, he kind of jumps a little bit back to like what happened in that battle. He says that Poppy changed, with her flesh becoming a kaleidoscope of light and shadow with an outline of wings taking shape and arcing behind her. It reminded me of winged statues guarding the city of the gods in the Elysium. And that immediately made me think of Nektas and his wings when he's in his true primal form, or as Daddy Nektas that we call him. It also has a tie to Kolis, because Casteel mentions the city of the gods, which is Dalos, which is where Kolis is. And we've seen those winged statues in A Light and a Flame. So it feels like a really important breadcrumb that's going to matter like later in this series. I feel like that's going to somehow come to life in the Primal of Blood and Bone. No idea how.
Yeah, but I don't know how this is going to happen, but it's going to happen.
But it's going to happen. And then the other thing is Casteel notices that Poppy is really pale. And at first when I read this and I was like, I just thought she was really, I always assumed she was just really pale to begin with, right? Yeah. And how her eyes appear to be brighter with the silver ether. And then there's this sense among him and Kieran that something is wrong with her, even though she assumes that she's fine. And when she was kind of like, why are you guys asking if I'm okay? Like, I'm fine. Yeah, is the most typical like woman response ever when like you're not fine, but you're like, it's fine. I'm fine. Like, why are you staring at me?
Leave me alone. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then it doesn't help that Nektas says Kolis should be their primary concern and that Poppy should be their secondary concern. Because, like, Poppy seems to take offense to that, obviously, and makes it clear, like, no, Iris and Jadis should be our primary concern, like, followed by Colas, and then, like, don't even put me on that list. Like, I'm fine, guys. Stop. You need to calm down. I'm fine. And we're like, keep telling yourself that, Poppy. Like, you need some therapy, first of all. Like, you just killed your mother, bitch. Used a shit ton of power, and you just kind of became the primal of life and death, all of which you've been told should not even exist. Zero reason for anyone to be concerned, obviously. It's like, what could go wrong? Everything's fine. The world is burning around you. You're fine.
Everything's fine.
So it's good. Then Nektas confirms what we've been thinking this entire time. Casteel is far too much like him, the one his bloodline is descended from. And then Kieran asks, who was that? And Nektas responds, you mean to ask who is that? It's like, what? Okay, what?
Okay, OG Kieran.
Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly. So, okay, that confirms for sure that Casteel is a descendant of a god, and we're convinced it's a primal god. So this could mean a couple of things. We know that Nektas considers Atlanteans to be his children, of course, and Nektas may be referring to Casteel being like a descendant of Nektas. So we're really hoping that's not the case, because that doesn't then technically make him a Poppy and him related. Like,
kind of, right?
No. Like, let's not do that.
I hope fingers crossed. That's not who I want it to be.
No. So, or it could mean that like another primal, such as like Ates, we have theorized could somehow be related to Casteel. And we're like, okay, you got Seti, the horse, and all that stuff. Like, let's see how that goes. So the goddess Penelope also wakes up and causes everything to shake. Giant earthquake. It's crazy. And she's the one who shared the prophecy and called Poppy the bringer of death. So a prophecy that Poppy has fulfilled now, according to Nektas. And we're like, great.
Awesome. And then he tells them that it's really adorable how Casteel, Kieran, and Delano tried to shield Poppy from the walls shaking, because Poppy is the one person who could have survived the collapse of a building. And I'm like, that is a true point.
Yeah.
He also says it's unnecessary because Poppy, Casteel, and Kieran are joined. And I'm like, quick question. How does he know that? OG Kieran,
right.
What do you know? Can you
How do you
smell it on them? Can you sense it?
Oh, I'm sure they can just smell it. Yeah, it's got to be they have each other's scents on each other,
I guess, but it's been a while. They were just fighting and killing, and there was blood everywhere. Like, how do they smell like each other?
Yeah, who knows?
There's something more to this, because and we'll talk about when we get to theories, because it made me think of when Reaver keeps calling in the War of Two Queens Kieran Poppy's Wolven.
Oh, yeah.
Even before the joining.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more. I have a really crazy theory, so get excited. Yeah. Or scared. One of the two.
A little bit of both.
So, and then it's time for Poppy to get reacquainted with Eros, who is in his cave cat form and held in a cage, not made of, I assumed it would be made of deity bones, because that's what we use most of the time, but it's made of shadowstone bones, which apparently are worse, or shadowstone bars with wards etched into them, which are probably courtesy of fucking Callum.
Yeah.
I've officially hate Callum more than I hated Alistair.
Ooh.
That's a lot. I know.
That's it. Yep.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait for that Revenant to get what's coming to him.
Yes.
So when we see Eurus, he's a bit unstable in his cave cat form because he's been that way for way too long. He's more animal than God, which reminded me, like, that wording and phrasing was very similar to how she described Casteel in the War of Two Queens.
Yes.
Right? When they go to rescue him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially knowing what Casteel turns into later.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, ooh. So according to Nektas, it's easy for a god and a primal to lose themselves if they stay in their animal form for too long. And so this was, when he said this, I was like, Poppy's gonna shift. It's going to happen. Like, and I was really hoping it would happen in this book.
Yeah.
It doesn't. We get a surprise though. But, and then Eris has probably felt the jolts of the other gods awakening and wasn't prepared for it. I'm like, how could anyone be prepared for that?
Yeah, right? It's like, boom. Oh, there's an earthquake. What? Huh? What's going on? What?
Right. Well, and I'm also like, it was an interesting commentary. I'm like, why would anyone need to prepare for that?
Yeah.
I
Like,
assume
is it?
everything Nektas does is a breadcrumb.
Hmm. For sure.
So
He knows way more than he lets on.
he does. And so I feel like he's just like dropping these little breadcrumbs and I'm like, tell me what they are. And then Poppy is her wonderful, reckless self that we love and puts her hand in the cage and uses her ability to soothe emotions to help Iris.
Put your hand
It's
in
like
the
the
cage.
small
It just
child,
reminds me of like my kid. Yeah, I'm just like, don't put your hand. What are you doing? Stop it. You're gonna get your hand bit off.
like don't pet dogs you don't know. Don't you know what I mean? And she's just like, oh, pretty kitty.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just like, no, stop it.
So she does get to keep her hand, thankfully.
Yes.
We still have not found Casteel's finger.
No. Oh, yeah.
But we also learned that Nektas can apparently use Drakenfire while he's in mortal form, and I did not expect that one.
No. I was like, how?
I have questions.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions. And then thanks to Poppy's power, she's able to calm him down. Very similar to what we saw with Casteel, right, in the last book. And he shifts back into his human form, and he looks in worse shape. And I'm like, cool. So then Casteel does probably, I think, the most, like the first heartbreaking moment for me of this book was when he tells Iris, like, you're not dreaming, his bitch is really dead and you're free. Because it reminds him back about how he would dream, especially when he was held previously the first time by his bitch, like of being rescued and it was just a dream and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
And then Iris tells Poppy that he knows who she is. And then he asks about his other girl. And I was like, I just was like, oh my goodness. So, and then Iris apologizes to Nektas for bringing Jadis with him. And he claims that Jadis is in the Willow Plains. I'm like, okay, nothing else happens with Jadis at this point in the series.
And I don't know anything else.
I'm dying to know what's going on. I'm also like, why did you take her? Because I think of her, and this is not right, because she's not a baby Draken, but in my mind, she's still baby Draken. I'm like, why do we take the baby Draken?
Don't take the baby.
And she did, I mean, clearly she's like, I mean, she's younger than Reaver, but she's like full Draken now when this probably happened. And then Iris passes out and needs to be taken to the Elysium so he can go to the ground, meaning he needs to go into stasis while he recovers. And he can't do it where he's at because of all the Shadowstone. And I'm like, that feels like another important breadcrumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Shadowstone will literally prevent them from doing that.
Correct. From going to the ground.
Yeah. We'll see. So then things get a little bit more stressful when Poppy starts to get dizzy and mentions having a headache. So I originally was like, could she be pregnant? Ooh. I'm suspicious of all that all the time. But like, again, it's like, oh, maybe not. Like, it could just be the stasis coming in, you know.
Well, if she was, whose baby is it? Because we don't know who was what, where during the morning.
True. We did not get details of where it was. Yeah. Who knows? TBD. So her skin also feels like very, very cold now, and she has like shadows beneath her eyes. And I'm like, girl, I understand. Like, that's how I feel every morning when I wake up. I'm like, oh, I need my coffee. But this is the moment where we also know our theory about Poppy going into stasis is definitely true. Because like using all of that power to kill his bitch, you know, was definitely a lot. And it's also a problem now that she went through like her ascension. Probably, most likely. And completed the culling without going into stasis. So according to Nektas, he's like, this timing is quite inconvenient. Super helpful. Thank you so much, Nektas. Super fucking helpful. He's like, okay. Yep, this is probably about to happen when we're all down here. And it's like, great.
But at what point does he tell them what's about to happen? Like, he doesn't, like, he's like, this is not ideal.
He's like, what? Tell us, please. What? Details. Continue your sentence. What was your
more information
here? Yeah. And then he's like, that's when we learned that Poppy has not technically completed the culling then. And she now has to go into stasis to finish it. And so it's like, okay. So she's basically gone into stasis now, just like falls asleep. And you're like, hello, wake up, wake up. And the good news is that if she's been injured or in any danger, then the land would seek to protect her. Similar to how we saw that happen before with Poppy. And then we saw that happen to Sarah. Like, she was losing her shit and like the ground was coming to protect her and stuff. But like now she just sleeps for like who knows how long. Undetermined. Do not know. Like, unsure. And that basically makes Casteel and Kieran like super pissed off. They're like, what do you mean she's asleep? until like she's basically just Sleeping Beauty. True Love's kiss is not going to wake her up though. It just
No.
whenever stasis decides to be done. And then Nektas mentions, well, sometimes primals who go into stasis at the end of the choline can wake up without their memory. So it's like, you mean like amnesia? Like she's just like, what? It's
Like
yeah,
for a
yeah.
short time, like a short term,
Yeah.
long term, what are we talking?
Yeah, he's like, well, I suggest, maybe you talk to Poppy. And like, that's basically what Nektas did when Sarah was in stasis, and it helped. So we're thinking this means that Sarah probably goes into a stasis at another time because there's no mention of Nektas talking to Sarah when she was in stasis in the book A Light in the Flame. So we're like, okay, that's going to happen eventually, we're sure. So now Casteel, Kieran, and Delano take Poppy to a guest room in Wayfair Castle because they're also just like, great, this is not the ideal place to be. We don't want to be in Wayfair Castle. This sucks. And Casteel has Emil make sure that like no one enters the floor, ensures the castle is secure. And we also learned that Neil went to go look for Malik and Millicent because we're also just like, I don't know where they went. They just kind of like ran off after we thought Malik died, But like, okay, he's not dead. But where'd he go? So Casteel also then shows some restraint and things like, what would Poppy do in this moment? About like how to handle all of the Ascended and stuff. And they kind of just agreed, like, basically, like, if you stay in your homes, we won't hurt you. Like, no biting anyone. Like, no bites. No doing this.
No die.
No die. It's like, if you stay nice vampires in your homes, we won't come and stake you in the heart, basically. And then they're like, okay, we're also going to plan to send an update to Valen about, like, what's happened now at the Bone Temple. But, like, let's leave out that part about Poppy being in stasis. Like, minor detail. Nobody needs to know this. It's fine.
That's like the most typical response to like when you need to tell your parents something and you're like, but they don't need to know like all of what happened. Yeah. Like here are the cliff notes.
Let's not get in trouble.
Correct.
But then before leaving the room, Emil like turns to Casteel and asks him, he's like, please tell Poppy that I'm grateful for being brought back to life and that she has his everlasting devotion and utter and complete adoration. Which, of course, I'm like, that's like the wrong thing to say to Casteel, especially from Emil, because he gets really pissed off and he's just like seething with jealousy and like, he's like, I'm not going to fucking tell her that. Like, no way. And so it's like, over my dead body, am I going to tell her this when she wakes up? And it's like, oh, Emil.
He never gets a clue. Like,
he just doesn't.
Ever.
No. Poor guy. He's friend zoned forever.
Except with Fonetta. I can't wait for Kieran to find out about that. Like at some point, I hope we get that would be my dream scenario. We get a Kieran chapter in a book where he finds out about Emil and Fonetta. Because he's going to lose his shit.
He's going to lose his shit.
So then we jump into Casteel's version of meeting Poppy and everything that happened in the first book in the series from Blood and Ash. So there's a lot of different ways we could choose to cover this. What we decided to do was rather than deep dive into everything that happened again, but from like Casteel's point of view, we're going to focus on the new things that we learned from his version of the story. Because there are a few doozies that endear us more to Casteel and also raise even more questions and theories. So the first few chapters occur before the beginning of From Blood and Ash, where Poppy's at the Red Pearl. So these chapters help us get a better understanding of Hawke's life during his time as a guard and his thoughts regarding the Maiden, the Ascended, etc. before ever meeting Poppy. We are also going to try, and I don't know if we'll be successful, but we're going to try and call him Hawke when he is acting as Hawke in that version, and Casteel when he's acting as Casteel, because I do think there are some differences to like the story and what's going on. I'm sure we will mess it up at some point. But here's what we learned.
Just don't call him the Dark One. He doesn't like that.
He does not like that. It's kind of sexy though.
But yeah, I'm like, can we call you the Dark One when you're like being a bad boy, like a sexy bad boy?
Right?
Like, Dark One.
Can you imagine if he gets shadowed? Okay, sorry. Wait, I'm spiraling now.
Love it.
So Hawke, so at the beginning, Hawke doesn't understand why the Maiden was chosen because the Blood Crown has never elaborated on this information, and he's never been able to get it out of any Ascended that he has captured and tortured. So he only mentions that she's supposed to be, and this is a really interesting choice of words, a harbinger of a new era is how she's been referred to, which is interesting because she is going to be the harbinger in the prophecy of Penelope. And then Hawke believes that if he doesn't capture the maiden, that millions of people will die in the war between Atlantia and Solus. So there is this part about him getting his brother back, but it's also because he's trying to prevent this war that he thinks, rightfully so, Valen and Alistair are like 1,000% wanting to have happen.
Yeah.
We also get to see some serious animosity between Hawke and Lieutenant Smith, who has been on like Hawke's ass from the first day, which makes more sense like why that man dies.
Yeah.
And then we've noticed that we've seen, at least in Frumpel Nash, like Poppy watching Hawke train. Well, Hawke has noticed that as well, but he's not seen much of her features and he's never heard her voice. And then he assumes that she's a submissive, frightened creature that would, like, in order to allow herself to be veiled and controlled by the Blood Queen. He's heard no gossip about the maiden, but guards have been relieved of their positions or demoted for even acknowledging her presence. He believes the maiden is unworthy of the people's support and has to know who the Ascended truly are and how the Ascension came to be.
Yeah, and it's like, no, dude.
No,
she
dude,
does not
you're
know.
going to be so wrong.
You're so wrong. And it's so funny reading this and you're like, no.
Absolutely not. I know.
You're wrong.
The part when he was like, she's submissive, and I was like, oh, dude, you're going to be... I really, if she remembers you telling her some of this stuff, she's going to be pissed when she wakes up.
Oh, yeah.
So then we also learned that Kieran is stationed in the city guard in Macedonia, which we didn't know at all. We knew he came to the Red Pearl, but we didn't know anything like that. And then we also learned that Hawke has helped another guard, Joel Crane, die because he was bitten by a craven, and he didn't want him to experience like the public death. And then he learns from Joel before Joel dies, well, before Hawke kills him, that the maiden supposedly helps people infected with craven bites too. And then we get...
You have that in common.
Like, you have that in common. You're both stabby. And then Victor and Hawke are sparring, and Hawke is distracted by the maiden's presence. And Victor gives him shit about being distracted and comments on how arrogance or vengeance can cause you to lose what truly matters. And Hawke takes that as like a warning. I took it as more of Victor towing the line between interfering and not interfering. Because there are numerous times, and like Hawke even mentions, like that come out to light in this book of his retelling and at the end of this book in present day, where this comes to life.
Mm-hmm. He like can hear Victor's words again. And he's like,
yes.
Oh, man.
That man crazy. Was really good at like just walking the line of like, I guess if you're the first Victor, you can do that.
True. You can do
whatever you want. The rules don't apply to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So then we go back to the present. And I guess it's only been a few hours while Casteel is retelling the story of him as Hawke. And Poppy's still in stasis. He's talking to her. He's wondering, like, again, like, did Victor give me that warning? Because he's like, he knew what eventually happened to Poppy in the Wastelands when Casteel wasn't focusing on Poppy, instead sought vengeance. Again, all of that where Poppy got shot with a bolt, almost died. And Casteel then makes a comment about how Poppy is about to meet who he used to be. And you're like, okay, that's a big theme in this book. How much meeting Poppy changed him, which I think we could also say helped change him to get rid of his Hawke self and into Casteel, back to the original Cas, like the fun-loving, who he was meant to be.
Before he was captured.
Yeah. Again. So, again, we're switching back to Casteel's version of his road to meeting Poppy, and here's kind of a little bit more. So, Hawke is at the Red Pearl meeting with Commander Jericho. Jericho.
I hate Jericho.
I hated him again.
But not a good bad boy. Like a gross bad boy.
You're a bad boy. And Kieran's there too. So Commander Jansen has been in Solus for a very, very long time and is literally the only reason why Hawke's men got promoted into the Royal Army. So Commander Jansen understands that someone on the Maiden's detail needs to die because we need to make room. He's like, I don't like what we have to do because these are good people, these are good men, but, you know, we got to stick to our plan to get somebody in there. And so according to Commander Jansen, the Maiden is actually a favorite of many people, not just the Queen. So people around her like speak of her kindness, and her guards protect her because they want to, not just because they're paid to do it. So that is kind of like, well, that's going to be troublesome when she goes missing. Like people are going to notice and like want to know where she's at. Like, God forbid people like you and you suddenly get kidnapped. So apparently, we learn here that Commander Jansen's children were killed by the Ascended. So he definitely has, his own reasonings for stopping them and also wants to protect Atlantia. And we find out that the maiden walks the garden every night to see the night blooming roses, which are native to Atlantia. And that's kind of like the first connection right there between Poppy and Atlantia that Hawk becomes aware of. He's like, huh, why? That's interesting that she likes these certain flowers from here, but doesn't really think anything of it at the time. He's just like, okay, cool. She likes flowers. And Hawk then makes it very clear to Jericho, again, that the maiden is to be unharmed when the guard is killed in the garden. And I'm like, Jericho, you hear this message, but you're just not going to listen. It's like, again, talking to our kids. I'm like, you hear me, but you're just not listening. You're not going to do what you're told. And the thought of harming the maiden literally makes Hawk's skin crawl. He's like, I don't want to hurt her. Like, first of all, she likes the same flowers that I do, so we have that in common. But, he's like, people like her. I'm not going to hurt someone that people like. But Jericho, you've been warned. Don't do this. And you just don't listen.
He does not listen. So his plan is to become one of the maiden's royal guards and gain her trust. So when they do kidnap her, she doesn't put up a fight. And he's treating like the upcoming riot as the best time to do it, since the rise and the city will be poorly guarded and the guards will be distracted by various debauchery things that happen after the riot. And then Kieran has heard the maiden was born in a shroud and is mortal. And we learn that Atlanteans born in a shroud were chosen by the gods, but there hasn't been an Atlantean one born since the time of the gods. And I'm like, that's very confusing.
Yes, very confusing.
Which makes them think this is just like another ascended lie. But then Kieran, in typical Kieran fashion, is like, but maybe a mortal could be born in a shroud. And I'm like, Kieran, do you know something? What do you know? Or are you just, no one knows. We
just
also
like
learn
we question everything. We're like, but
we
maybe.
question everything. I'm like, everything he says, I'm like, Then we learn when he was first held by the Blood Queen, it was for 5 decades. That's a really long time. But yeah. Malik has been held twice as long. And I was like, oh, damn, that's worse.
That's bad.
It's bad. And the impact of all of that still haunts him. And he has used sex with random people as a way to dull the pain. And that'll come up. We learn a lot more about kind of like what happened to him and how he tries to like hide from the trauma of it. And then when the maiden comes into Hawk's room at the Red Pearl, he thinks it could be Britta, even though it feels different. And her smell reminds him of honeydew. I lost it.
We got our first honeydew reference.
And then he realizes it's not Britta when he kisses her and tugs back her hood. And then he knows it's the maiden.
But she doesn't know that he knows that
she's the maiden.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he originally, like, that he knew who she was when she first came in the room. So this was kind of fascinating to me that he didn't know until he kissed her.
Yeah.
And then I think he thought originally, like, that Britta was playing some sort of, like, weird sexual game with him where she, like, doesn't talk.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm like, okay.
It's a weird
whatever floats your boat,
I guess. Yeah, right?
So it surprises him when the maiden speaks, and he realizes that she has a dirty mind. Because, like, he makes the comment, like, I think she says, you, like, get off. And he was like, well, that's what I'm here to do, or I'm trying to do.
Trying to get off,
like, yeah. And she, like, gets the reference, which causes him to feel, like, laugh, but feel interest, awe, curiosity, and contentment. I'm like, hi. You're soulmates.
Yes, exactly.
And he's very curious why she's there. Like, he feels like he needs to know. It's not that he wants to know, he needs to know. And even though it's a perfect opportunity to kidnap her, he'd rather give up that opportunity and find out why she's there. And then he finds a dagger on her, which surprises him and turns him on. We all know that. Of course. And then we finally, because we've questioned what was so fucking important, Kieran, that you had to pull Hawk from the room that night. Did not expect it to be Emil. That Emil has traveled there, so Casteel, right, could feed. So Kieran
Emil is the meal.
He is the male. And I'm also like, so at this point I thought, is this why Hawk or like Casteel hates Emil so much when it comes to Poppy? Because
You cock blocked him.
you cock blocked him at the Red Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
No, we learned that frustration goes back way longer, and it's about more
Mm-hmm.
things than just Poppy.
Yeah.
So then Kieran, in typical Kieran fashion, is like, he makes it clear to Casteel that he can smell the scent of someone else on him, and it's not someone who frequents the Red Pearl. And I'm like, how do you know the smells of all the women that frequent the Red Pearl, Kieran? Like,
I mean, Kieran likes to get off there too, you know?
he does. Apparently a lot if he knows all of their smells. And then Kieran is shocked to learn that it's the maiden. And then Casteel feeds from Emil. He sees, this is where we learn this thing with Von Netta. He sees images of Von Netta, which surprises him and makes him think that Emil has a death wish, which he probably does.
Yeah.
And then Casteel, because when he's with Emil and he's with Kieran, he's Casteel. He's not like the person of Hawk that we would think of.
Yeah.
He tells Emil to return to Atlantia and keep an eye on Alistair. And then Casteel makes it clear he's not suspicious of him. And I'm like, you should be. You should be. But he doesn't want him to find out what he's planning to do with the maiden, because Alistair wants war and would likely use the maiden as a way to strike back against the Blood Crown. So what's interesting to me is, like, he doesn't know her besides this one interaction and seeing her a couple of times, and he's already protecting her.
Yes. Which is very good. So then Hawk, now we're back to him being Hawk, because he's, in his Hawk form. Not form, but So he's disappointed when he returns to the Red Pearl and the maiden isn't there waiting for him. Because remember, the last thing he said was like, wait for me, I'll be back. And she's like,
I would have waited.
I would have waited. Like, why didn't you wait? Come on. And he's like, real bummed. He's like, oh, boo, she's not here. And he ends up like tracking her scent and follows her back to the castle. And he also ends up killing an Ascended who happened to be hunting her. So I'm like, you're just saving her life all the time. But like, this is the first time for real. Also, that is
she has no idea.
She has no idea. Yeah. So it's like, Poppy, hello. He's been looking out for you. Like, come on. It's kind of like, honestly, when Nektas was taking care of and like protecting Sarah this whole time. Like, I've been watching you. I've been taking care of you. So again, I'm like, oh, you love her and you don't even know it yet. So then he's back in his room and Hawk realizes that the maiden isn't perhaps a willing participant in the role that she has to play. It makes him wonder, he's like, what else could I be wrong about her? I don't know. And I'm like, exactly. Don't assume things, because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. So Hawk then gets turned on about thinking about her, and he ends up touching himself, masturbating just a little bit. You're like, good for you, Hawk. And we also then learn that, sex was both nothing and everything to Atlanteans and Wolven, and that intimately sharing oneself with another was something to be celebrated. The pleasure came from the closeness and not so much the actual release, which again, we're like, made me think of when they were all on that beach together and having a good old time. So what is surprising here to Hawk is that this orgasm is the first one that he hasn't felt mechanical since he was first captured. So he's used a bunch of like drugs and alcohol to help him hide his pain, and he's used sex with lots of people to control who touches him, since he didn't have that control when he was held captive. And you're like, okay, that really sucks, and that's dark. Like, so it's good. You're like, okay, you're finding therapy and masturbating, I guess, now.
Well, what's interesting to me is I'm like, I can only imagine how people like he's had sex with since he was freed, because it's been like, what, over 100 years?
Yeah.
But that this is the first time it doesn't feel mechanical. And I'm like, how there are so many things that are just like smacking you upside the head that she's different. And I feel like it just takes him forever to see it.
Yeah, honestly. It's just like, it's right in front of you, right in front of you. Anyway, but again, we have always assumed, based on what he shared, that Casteel was sexually assaulted while being held captive, and this just confirms it. So it's sad, but it's good to see he's moving forward with it in a sort of healthy way, but like not. So TBD. So
I think in a sort of authentic way, though, because I do
in the best way he can.
Because I do think a lot of people that have experienced that, I feel like, go to one of two scenarios. One, which is like they don't want anyone to touch them, or two, they want to replace like all of those memories and have a lot more and are become a little bit more promiscuous to try and erase it, which is I think what
Yeah.
he did. So I
Yeah.
do feel like there's some authenticity to like finding a
Yeah.
way to
I
cope
mean,
with it.
he
That's
even,
probably unhealthy that therapy would better benefit he'd better benefit from therapy than that, but
yes. Yes. Because remember when she's like in the garden, he's like, let's replace these bad memories with good ones. It's like, so you're replacing all of these sexual hookups with bad ones. Like, okay.
yeah.
Also, can Atlanteans get STDs?
I don't know. Do
'Cause
STDs
it's
exist in this world?
I mean,
They have.
so who knows? Condoms don't exist, but I don't know.
No.
Or maybe they do. I don't know. So anyway, back to the present now, where Poppy is in stasis. Kieran finds clean clothes for Poppy that weren't white because he's like, I don't want her to wake up and be in Maiden's colors. Like, who knows what that would trigger. And we learned that Casteel also used to cut himself to try and numb the pain. And apparently only Kieran is the one that knew about that because of their bond. So, dude, Casteel, therapy would have been so, so great for you.
Yeah.
You know, don't do drugs, drinking it away, promiscuity, like self-harm, like, oof. And you know what I think is important here is to learn that this happens to, I'm going to say men, but, you know, Casteel, this can happen to men too. Like, we hear a lot, like, in current culture of, like, this happening to women, of, like, self-harm and all of these things to help numb the pain and, like, cope with things. But it's like, men can do that too. And you don't hear about that as often. So
No.
I think it's important to acknowledge that this can happen to men as well. But this is not the right way to deal with it. This is not how we deal with these things. We talk, we seek help. Anyway. So additionally then, Kieran asks if Poppy knows the truth about Shay. And Casteel says no. He's like, I'm going to tell her when she's awake. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean the truth? Like, we know some about Shay. So it's like, do you mean the fact that she, like, betrayed? Like, is that what we mean? Or do you mean that he loved her at one point? Like, is that what you mean? Because I thought we covered that.
I did too. I was like, I mean, we know she betrayed you and Malik. We know she made a deal with the Ascended. We know you killed her.
Yeah. So it's like, what other truth are you talking about? I'm confused.
And why now?
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, okay. I don't know. What else
Well,
is
the
there?
fact that Kieran brings it up and is like, are you going to tell her the truth? Have you told her the truth? And I'm like, it has to be important. It has to be something that Kieran feels like she needs to know.
Yeah. Also curious, like, why are you bringing this up now? Like, when Poppy's in stasis. I'm like, is this the right time to be bringing this up?
No, it's not. No.
Like, I just feel like the right time. Like, I don't know.
You don't think that you don't think the three of them joined, do you? No, because then she couldn't have died.
No. That's true.
Right?
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked.
Okay.
But now I have so many questions because of all this.
I have so many
like,
questions. We're going to talk more about it. But like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I feel like he's just like, lobbying, shot over. Hi. Just dropping that. Noodle on it.
Kieran.
Think about it. And I'm like,
Kieran.
damn it, Kieran.
Yeah.
So back to Casteel's version of when him and Maiden were first together, Macedonia. We learned that Hawk runs into Britta. They discuss the person. Her name was, we learned her name, Melissa Axton, when she was killed, and how Britta also shares that she tries to avoid Lord Mazin,
Yeah.
because he has a little awareness of personal space. I'm like, that is the most roundabout way to say he's very touchy with his hands and inappropriate.
It's very assaulty.
He's very sexually assaulty. And then Britta tells Hawk she'll keep an eye out for him at the Red Pearl. And what's interesting at this point is Hawk has no intentions of returning to the Red Pearl or looking for Britta. And I'm like, hi, do you think that's something you should notice?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when he finds out that Jericho hurt the Maiden from Commander Jansen, he is furious. And Kieran has to remind him that he can't kill Jericho. And Kieran tells Casteel that he knows what has gotten him so fired up, and it's not that Jericho tried to grab her. And I'm like, Kieran, is this when you realize that there was something between them?
Hmm. Right?
Like,
It's like, what are you picking up? Are
what are you picking
your
up?
wolf senses picking this
What do
up?
you smell?
Mm-hmm.
And then Casteel goes with Kieran to go see Jericho, and he has to keep like in his head. This was so funny to me, like, don't kill Jericho, don't kill Jericho, don't kill Jericho. And I'm just thinking he's gonna like verbally tongue lash him. No, instead he cuts off his hand. He's like, which one is your dominant hand? He's like, oh, this one. And then he like cuts the other one off. I'm like, oh damn.
Whoopsies. It's like, I told you not to lay a hand on her.
And on her, now you have one less hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Hawk when he's at Ryland's funeral and he's surprised to see the maiden there. It also surprises himself because I thought that this was a very like intentional move when like he notices that Victor needs to go up and light the prairie, like the fire and everything. And so he was very much intentionally trying to get himself close to the maiden. No, he's surprised himself that he kind of like moves and offers to protect her, which is kind of interesting. And he also doesn't feel guilty for cutting off Jericho's hand when he sees the bruise on her face. And I'm like,
yeah,
you shouldn't have felt guilty regardless of the bruise. He's an asshole.
Yeah.
And then we get a scene where Casteel and Kieran go with the dissenter, Lev, to a home where a baby has been turned into a craven by the Ascended. I thought the Dead Bones clan situation was one of the most disturbing scenes. And then there's also the scene in the War of Two Queens when there's the Temple of All the Bodies. I think this might top it. And I was just like,
it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Like
and
a baby craven, aka baby zombie. You're like, oh,
no.
no.
And then like the baby's craven killed its parents.
It's bad.
It's like real bad.
Bad.
So then we find out that Duke Tierman was not super keen on Hawk being promoted to the Maiden's Royal Guard, but was convinced by Commander Jansen and Hawk's responses to questions on how he would protect her. And I think it was kind of funny because you do see his arrogance come out where he was just like, well, I wouldn't have to sacrifice my life. And I'm like, what?
Why?
Because we'd never be in a position where that would be necessary. And I'm like, well, damn, that's a really good answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we learn from Duke Tierman that the maiden has a habit of not setting boundaries between herself and others.
That's really rich coming from you, Duke.
Right?
Yeah. We're like, okay. So, and now we also kind of learn a quick little like side note. We're going to learn about some gods here, various gods that have major ties to people that we have met in the Flesh and Fire series. And this should mean, potentially, that all of those gods are going to eventually become primals at some point. But we just need a quick little, like, recap. So we have the god Rain, which is the god of common men and endings. Then we have Eos, which is the goddess of love, fertility, and beauty. Penelope, goddess of wisdom, loyalty, and duty. Bele, or Bella, whichever you want to pronounce it, goddess of the hunt. Theon, which is the god of accord and war. Layla, who is the goddess of peace and vengeance. And Sion, the god of sky and soil. So we're like, okay, good to know.
What was interesting, like when he went through all of this,
is
I was like, at first I was like, why are we doing this? And then I started looking at the names. I was like, shit, these are people that we have met that are in Nektas' court or are like aligned with him in the first two books of the Flesh and Fire series that are not currently primals.
Yeah, because they couldn't be ascended.
Correct. And they don't have these titles. And it was just like, interesting.
Yeah, we're like, okay, good to know. Good to know. And then we're like, oh, but you're missing one. Poppy!
Right.
Primal of everything. So then Hawk here has another encounter with Lieutenant Smith, who accuses him of fucking the Duchess. And that's why he got promoted. And he's just like, nah, dude, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Not even going to happen.
I think his response was like, not that I remember. And it was just
my God, that's perfect. It's like, well, I don't remember.
What I loved about it was like, I bet there are times where he doesn't remember some of the people he's had sex with.
That's true. Who knows?
But I think he would remember if it was a vampire.
Yeah,
right?
I think he would remember that. I think he would.
Do you think he's had sex with an Ascended?
I mean, not by choice.
I'm saying no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like, Not by
I think
choice.
he's
Okay.
been assaulted by one. Yeah.
I
Well,
think
I
he's
think
been
for
assaulted by a lot
sure.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we get to like right after Hawk has heard the Tullis family asking for their son to be not sacrificed to the gods. They don't know that. Hawk's like, okay, I'm going to help them escape. I'm going to mental note. They're going to get out of here because this is not right. And Commander Jansen is then planning to move them to New Haven right before the raid. And then Hawk apparently gets to see the maiden without her veil for the first time. And he is just literally in awe of her beauty and her strength. And he literally goes into great detail talking about like just how beautiful she is. And like doesn't really like he like is like, yes, she has like some scars, but like who cares? He's like her nose, her mouth, her eyes, like her cheeks, like just loves everything about her. And then Hawk overhears Tawny call the maiden by her nickname, Poppy. And he hears that and he says this like prickle at the nape of his neck. Which again, I think this is the first inclination also of like your heartmates. Like you get this like tingly feeling all over about each other. And he then eavesdrops on Poppy telling Tawny about the kiss at the Red Pearl. And he's like, I like Tawny. Like she's fun. Like she's on my good list. But she kind of goes back and forth. Like sometimes she's like on his shit list and then sometimes she's like back on the list. And it's funny, this entire conversation he's overhearing, he's like, Tawny, be my friend. Come on. Like, And then he's like, okay, good. Good. I like her. It's so funny. And then we learn that Victor does not approve of Hawk being Poppy's royal guard and like voices his concern to Commander Jansen about it. And I'm like, good luck. That's not going to happen. And Hawk also mentions that Victor reminds him of the father of a friend. And I'm like, are you talking about Jasper? Maybe? In a good way? Like, hopefully not Alistair, because Alistair sucks. But, yeah, I'm like, let's go more with the Jasper route. And then Victor tells Hawk about the Craven attack that Poppy suffered when she was 6 years old. And you're like, oh, you were just a child. That's right. So young. And how she has nightmares from it. And, like, you know, she'll scream from the nightmares, but she won't scream if she's in duress. Because he's like, how do I know when to help her? And it's like, she can take care of herself. No worries. Which is funny. And then Hawk also is surprised to learn from Victor that Poppy actually spends most of her time alone in her chambers. And I'm like, yeah, what did you expect, dude? And he just was like, oh, she doesn't get to do anything? Like he's starting to realize just how limited her world actually is. So Casteel and Kieran are torturing the Ascended to find out more information about his brother. And the Ascended says there is no kept prince. And like they don't realize this at the time, but like it's the first clue that Casteel gets that like your brother's not technically being held captive. Like he's roaming around free, but like still technically under like the queen. And the Ascended then also says that the maiden is chosen and the bringer of a new era, which is another clue and tie to the prophecy. But that Ascended also is like a major dick to Casteel because he like is like, I know you, I recognize you, like I was there when they were like torturing you, and that just like pisses him off. And he's just like, all right, done. You're dead. Like, bye-bye.
You did. Bye-bye.
You did. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, don't mess with Casteel.
No. So back to the present, Casteel is talking to Poppy about how the Ascended spoke the truth about Prince Malik and how he didn't recognize the Ascended who was there, like Megan was just saying when he was held captive. He always thought that he would remember all the faces of the people that tortured him or sexually assaulted him. So it's like really troubling that he doesn't. But I thought that wasn't very surprising because I do feel like our brain blocks out a lot of trauma from us to help to try and protect us. And then he also acknowledges that while Malik wasn't a prisoner, he was held by an invisible chain because of Millie, which Casteel can understand. However, he doesn't know if he'll ever be able to forgive him for the Craven attack on Poppy, which I get. And we'll see that come to blows later that we'll talk about. And then we jump back to his version of when him and the maiden were first together, and here's kind of what we learn. He does notice that change in mood when Poppy and Tawny find out that the Duke has summoned Poppy, and he offers to wait outside the Duke's office and then questions the guards about the meetings she has with the Duke. It's like he can sense something is wrong. Like he's so concerned that he sends a steward to go get Victor, who relieves him of his duty, and then he doesn't see Poppy for the next few days and is told that she's under the weather. So he like already
Which we all
feeling
know, like, that's not true.
that's not true, right? And he's all feeling very protective of her. And then when she has a nightmare while he's guarding her, he actually goes into her room to make sure she's okay and real like hides kind of like back against the wall. And he realizes that she does the same things to make herself fall back asleep that he does after he has a nightmare. So
Mm-hmm.
another thing
Yeah.
that unfortunately they have in common. Then we jump back to the present. Casteel has some resentment towards Victor for allowing Poppy to be abused by the Duke. I also am very conflicted about Victor. There's things I like about him, and I also
Yeah.
have a lot of frustration that he allowed Poppy to be treated the way she was. And then we learn that Casteel isn't really sleeping because he's afraid he won't be able to find Poppy in his dreams while she's in stasis. And that, like,
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to even attempt to dream walk because, like, what if it doesn't
if I
work?
can't. We
I'm
have a
like,
question about that because I'm curious, like, can you dream walk when you're in stasis? We don't see them do it,
yeah.
but I'm curious about it, right?
Do both people have to be in stasis, though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We have questions. I'm sure we could ask Nektas and he would not tell us, so
No, you would. No. Be very cryptic about it.
very cryptic. And then he tells her that the night on the rise, when she fought the Cravens, when she stopped being the maiden to him and started becoming Poppy. And I
Yes.
loved like the way that was phrased.
Mm-hmm. I loved this flashback specifically. And so we get again like that Casteel's version of when he and the maiden were first together in Macedonia and like fighting on the rise. So Hawk, first of all, shouldn't have been on the rise that night of the Craven attack since he was Poppy's royal guard. Like he was supposed to be there with her. And he immediately realizes that Poppy is the archer at the top of the rise because he can smell her. He's like, what are you doing here? You are not where I left you, you know? And
we never are, Hawk. We never are.
Yeah, we're never going to be where you leave us. Yeah. No. And he's very much intrigued by their interaction together and how she is able to fight him. And like she growls at him because she's refusing to speak, right? And it turns him on. And it's so funny to get his perspective on this. He's like, oh, I like this. This is fun. Like the chase that they have and like the banter and like physical fighting. And he's like thinking about how he would have her up against the wall if she was like anyone else. And it's just like, all right, we get it. You're very much like into the stabbiness. And then he gets alone with Poppy later that night. And he again feels that little prickle at the back of his neck and mentions how it feels like he's known her longer. I'm like, yeah, cause yeah, hot mates, people. But again, maybe they're souls of long lost lovers. Theory time. We'll get to that. And we then get to see a scene between Victor and Hawk, which is really funny, where Victor asks like why Hawk is staying quiet about Poppy being on the rise. He's like, what are you up to? Why aren't you saying anything? And that's also when Hawk tells Victor that he knows that Victor's the one that trained her. He's like, I know what you did. I know what you did back there. And I'm starting to think, I'm like, does Victor know who Hawk really is? Like, do you know who he is and how he's tied to Poppy right now? And you're just like trying to get it out of him or
trying to help him become the man he needs to be to earn, like deserve her.
Yes, exactly. Like all these clues he's dropping. I'm like, do you know? Like, are you aware? I don't know.
He has to be, right?
He's gotta be. I don't know.
I don't
when
know.
you're the first Victor, I guess rules don't apply and you just kind of everything happens.
Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. Yeah. So then the Duke and the Duchess address the town and everyone after the Craven attack. And we learn that the dissenter who threw that Craven hand was Lev, a man that we did meet earlier in this book. And during Poppy's lessons with the priestess later, Hawk hears mention of the cane and the Duke. And he's like, I don't understand how Poppy can handle like dealing with this priestess. Like she's a bitch. And he's like, I don't use this word likely, but she's a bitch. And it's like, yeah, she is. And Hawk then finds out that the Duke hits Poppy and confronts her about it. And that's ultimately when he decides, he's like, I'm definitely going to kill this guy. And I'm going to make it so painful and make it terrible. And like, yeah, I'm taking everything out.
That's vengeance.
Vengeance, especially when he finds that it's from like the blood forest, you know, like it came from there. And he's like, oh, hell no, like shit's going to go down. And then Hawk is talking to Poppy and he's kind of telling her a little bit about his brother without giving too many details, obviously. And Poppy uses her power then to help with his pain. And Hawk just doesn't realize it at the time. He just kind of suddenly feels this like peace. And he's like, I'm able to sleep. And like, it's the best sleep I've had in decades. And he wakes up to a very interesting surprise that Britta is just there in his room. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm servicing your room and I'll service you if you're interested. And she's like literally putting her hands like on his body and like down towards him. And he's just like, nope, I'm good. She's like, what?
Wait,
And
what?
honestly, you're like, oh, you got feelings for Poppy, dude, because
Yes.
you're turning down a free hand job slash whatever that could evolve
Whatever.
into. Yeah. And it's like, you're saying no to sex. Like, first you masturbate by yourself to Poppy, pretty much, and then you're turning down sex. Are you growing?
Huh.
Are you maturing? Are you
Are you,
evolving?
are you healing?
Healing? I hope so.
So then we flip back to present day. Casteel, he's just told the story about Pop, and he's like, I really hope you don't remember that story.
That's the first thing she's gonna wake up and say is like, what about Britta? What about
Right?
Shay? Like the two things that like, ugh. Which
What do
honestly,
you
as a
mean?
woman, you're like, yeah, that's the first thing I would ask too.
I have questions. I need more details.
Mhm.
And then we have an interesting conversation because, like, I don't know, like it quickly talks, he's like, I hope she doesn't think about that.
Yeah.
And then, Kira makes the comment like, well, she's probably gonna like punch you in the penis or something if that happens. And then
Yeah.
Casteel's like, no, she likes that part of me. And then Casteel talks about getting a cock piercing again. And Kieran's like, that's like another thing I need to talk you out of. And I'm like, why, Kieran?
That would, interesting. He's like, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that, buddy.
Kieran's kind of like the dad a little bit, where he's like, do we think that's a good idea?
Is this wise?
Is this why? Yeah, I think it might be. You should read Till Summer Do Us Part by Megan Quinn. You'd understand.
Exactly.
And then we also learned that most of the Ascended are staying under house arrest right now in Carcedona. Some didn't. They were killed. Bad vampires. No one knows where Malik and Millie are yet. And neither at this point, Kieran and Casteel haven't slept much.
Yeah.
And then we jump back to the past where he's kind of telling the story about when they were first together in Macedonia again. And this is one of my favorite scenes. So Casteel goes back to the Red Pearl, not for his own adventure,
Yeah.
but to meet with Kieran. And he comes in the room expecting Kieran to be alone. No, Kieran's having sex with a woman. Like, just taking her from
casually.
behind.
Yep.
Just going
like,
at
okay,
it.
what's going on, man?
And
Good to see you.
he's like, do you want to join? I don't think she'll mind.
Yeah, she's even
And I
like,
was like-
hello, join us.
Yeah. And then Casteel's like, yeah, not interested.
But he watches.
But he watches. And then he fantasizes about being Poppy on that bed with him and Kieran. And I was like, oh, damn.
Mhm.
Then we also learn from Casteel that Kieran can fuck really hard. And this woman will probably compare every future lover to him. And I was like, I'm going to need more details about that in a future book.
Yes. What does that mean?
That feels like a really important thing for us to elaborate on, Jennifer Armentrout. Just want to put that out there. Manifest more of that.
Can we get a POV from Kieran while he's
Oh, God.
fucking someone?
Please?
Yes. Please, please, please.
And then Kieran tries to talk Casteel out of killing the Duke because he's like, I think this seems more like revenge than like stopping an abuser. Like, I get that you want to prevent other people from being hurt, especially like given his past.
Yeah.
But also this feels very vengeful.
Yeah.
And
He's
Kieran
like,
tells Casteel that he cares about her. He's like, I know you care about her. And Casteel like doesn't actually deny it. Because I read through it a couple of times. Like, he doesn't deny it, but he's like, my plans haven't changed. And I'm like,
Okay.
is that like the man version of it's fine?
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel like you just said. It's fine. Everything's fine. And then he tries to talk Kieran to go back to Atlantia or Spas's End, right? He's like, I don't want you around here for this. And Kieran refuses. And then we see him when he's back kind of like in this Hawk version. He starts to worry about what's going to happen to Poppy after he frees his brother. And then he even considers offering her the ability to stay with him in Atlantia, even though he doesn't think his people would accept her. So think
Yeah.
about at this point, like nothing's happened between them. I mean, technically they kissed at the Red Pearl. She's barely spoken to him,
Yeah.
right? A few times. I think the most she spoke to him was like after the Craven attack on the Rise, like when he came into her room that night. And then he also calls her Poppy for the first time and doesn't realize it until she tells him. And I'm like, dude, you're in deep. You're in so deep. And I like it just, it was so endearing to read.
Hmm. And then it was cute afterwards to like, they were keeping track of how often he was calling her Poppy. He's like, that's the 4th time. That's the 10th time. And it's like, pays attention to details.
He does.
So then we get back to the present. And Casteel, is starting to be like, you know what? Poppy's skin doesn't feel as cold as it was before. And like the shadows are starting to kind of like fade out from under her eyes. And he's like, maybe she's getting better. Maybe we're getting closer to the end of this. And he admits to her that finding her in the Athenaeum and calling her Poppy for the first time was when he started to rethink all of his plans about her and like trying to figure out how to give her freedom and like a choice of a life rather than like giving her back to the Ascended. So again, we're back to Casteel's version of when he and the maiden were together in Macedonia. And we see a scene here where Hawke admits to the Duke that he is the Dark One and he is here to kill him. And Kieran was right. It was definitely a vengeance kill. And it was not short. He made it hurt. No. Very much so. He was like, you are not going to like this. And just like goes to town. Kills him. He's dead. And then he's like, I'm going to be a bit dramatic. And like, we all know he like hooks him up to the wall later. And we're like, all right, that's
the centerpiece
a fun entrance.
For the right.
Exactly. Like, you make a lovely centerpiece. I'm like, oh, good Lord. And it's just funny that like Hawke knows that's where the Duke is. And everybody's like, where's the Duke? And he's like, well, he's here technically, but you don't know that. Like, he's right behind that curtain. Ha ha ha. I'm just like, so funny. Like dark humor, but funny.
Yeah.
And then Hawke becomes breathless and feels this like prickling sensation on his neck when he sees Poppy at the right. Because she is hot. Like, not dressed as the maiden, a little bit revealing, sexy. And he feels just like this whoosh in his chest that he's never experienced before. And I'm like, heartmates. Soulmates. You're meant to be together. But again, it's like, they don't know that yet. But it's so cute. And he realizes that it feels magical, kind of, when he spends some time with her. And he's like, I'm feeling like Kaz. Like, I'm feeling like myself. I don't feel like I'm pretending to be Hawke, like it's just me. And you're like, yeah, that's good. And then he takes her under the willow tree, which we all also very much enjoy. And he's like basically realizing also, he's like, damn it, Kieran was right. I do care about her. Shit. Like, damn it. And then, they're basically dry humping each other and you're like, yep, this is good. And he's like, literally holding himself back. He's like trying not to lose control and go even further with her. And then like all of a sudden Poppy's like her tongue like flicks against his teeth and he's like, oh shit, I don't want her to find out about my fangs. And so he like pulls back. And he obviously wants to have sex with her right there and knows like she's not going to stop me. Like if I keep going, she is not going to stop it. And he's like, I don't want her to regret this later. He's like, she's going to regret every single like moment. And he then realizes like once she realizes who I am, like the truth of everything, like she's going to hate me. And so he kind of has this like actual sense of like rightness inside of him, not yet inside of her,
That's
later
later.
He does. That's later. Yeah. So he has just like this moment of like he's holding her and like everything feels right in the world, like everything's clicking in place, like it feels good. And then we obviously have a problem because he also knows like Kieran is in the garden nearby, like waiting to help kidnap Poppy. And he's just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like you can read about the like internal struggle that he's having going on because he's like, I guess we're going to stay underneath this willow a little bit longer, and just like not make the move I'm supposed to do. It's like as they're leaving, like they find Victor in the garden and he's just like, shit, I can't kill Victor in front of her. Like, I can't do that to her. Like, I care about her. Like, not gonna kidnap her right now. I'm not gonna kill her, like basically her dad in front of her. Like again, he's caught the feelings, and now like his entire plan is going to shit. He's just like, what am I gonna do?
But the plan has not changed.
But the plan, yeah, it's like the plan has technically not changed, but like the
But it's
mechanisms of
changed.
the plan have changed. Yeah.
So we flip back to the present. Casteel tells Poppy that what he felt with her underneath the willow tree, he thinks was his soul recognizing hers as his heartmate. He just didn't know what it was at the time. And I was like, oh God. Oh, I just loved it. And then Kieran also mentions that Casteel didn't want to believe him when Kieran told Casteel that they were heartmates. And I'm like, Kieran, when did you tell him that? Because we know when you told Poppy, but when did you tell Casteel? We don't know.
Oh yeah, that's true. We don't have that POV.
No. Like he doesn't, at least in this book, it's not mentioned, except that
Yeah.
Kieran did talk to him about it. And then Kieran also shares that he knew something was up with Casteel after they were together at the Red Pearl, like Casteel and Poppy, which is the beginning of the book from Blood and Ash,
Yeah.
when Casteel didn't want to talk about her because he was already protective of her. And I was like, God damn it, Kieran. Like, seriously? Help a brother out.
Kieran.
He's your
Mhm.
best friend. Knock some sense
But you know
into him.
what?
Like,
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And he's just like,
that's
"Thank
true.
you guys.
I think maybe you care about her.
Maybe
So
you like her."
maybe you like her.
Yeah.
So then
Just the girl.
Kieran, just the girl. Kieran and Casteel talk about Millicent and exactly what she is. And I think this is another important thing because they're like, they don't think she's a revenant and they don't think she's a god. I'm
What
like,
else
what
is
else
there?
is there?
Is she a cave cat too?
Oh, God, can you imagine? That would be freaking awesome. Just
That'd
like
be
a
so
whole army of cave cats. Real. I hope they're as cute as they are in my mind because in my mind,
Yeah.
they're really cute, and then they're probably not really. We'll probably get a description in another book that they're very vicious. But in my
Yeah.
mind, they're kind of like they're like. I always also imagine the wolven is like super soft and fluffy.
They're
But
fluffy until they kill you.
until I kill you, well, just don't piss them off.
No, just don't piss off. Yeah.
But the other reason I think this might be interesting is we know that Column is different than all the other revenants.
Yes. So is Millie like him?
That's what I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but I'm wondering if they're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we also learn that, I know he told Poppy this and from Blood and Ash, but he did not order the dissenters to attack the right. That was never the plan. They were just supposed to create a distraction with some fires. And so as a result, he ended up having to kill some of the dissenters, which I'm assuming was like in the castle when they were fighting. But then also I think he probably had to take care of some of them later, is how like the impression that he gave.
Yeah. And
So.
it's also like you can see he has that moment of like he recognizes of it. It's like some of the dissenters, like even like the kid.
Yes.
And he's just like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, you are a child. Like, why did you get recruited into doing this? And it was a girl. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's like a little mini Poppy just like fighting everybody. He's like, go home. Like, don't be here. Get out. And you can tell like he's a good guy. You know,
Yes.
like
Even though he doesn't think he is. And he's like become the dark one that the Ascendive, like that narrative that the Ascendive have crafted, he sometimes becomes, but that's not who he is.
yeah, like even like that same little kid was like the one that he gave like the food to, right?
Yep.
I believe like he like bought food and was like, you're starving, this isn't right. Like here's so you're just like, he is a human. Well, not human, but like he has a soul still. So then, okay, now we're back to Casteel's version of when he and the maiden were together in Macedonia. So he's Hawk, and Hawk is shocked by seeing this attack on the right because, again, wasn't supposed to happen. And his first instinct is like, oh my God, I need to find Poppy. Like, where is she? And he comes again across the Lieutenant Smith, about to kill that kid, happens to be the dissenter mask kid, and instead kills Lieutenant Smith. And you're like, okay, bye-bye. Like, how dare you? You die now. Like, you're about to kill, like, a child? Like,
right?
What is wrong with you? So he kills him. And then he finds Poppy and literally hears her screaming, no, because Victor is dying. And he's just like, he's like, he would have done anything to stop her from experiencing that pain, is what he says. And he's like, there's nothing he can do. And Victor passes, and then Hawk realizes like, oh shit, Poppy's about to like go off on Lord Mazine because he makes those very rude comments. And she picks up that sword, and he's like, I'm not gonna stop her. Like, she needs this. She needs this therapy of her own. And he's like, her scream of pain and anger reminds him of the sound that he made when he realized what Shay had done to him. And so it's just like, oh boy. But unsurprisingly, he also is like kind of turned on by it. Like, he finds her literally chopping Lord Mazine to pieces to be glorious. And he only stops her when he realizes, like, if she continues like cutting up his entire body, like, that's going to break her soul. And he's like, oh, that's a step too far now. I gotta rein it in.
Like, what was that line?
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, his arms are cut off, his legs are cut off, his head's cut off. Like, after that, she's just like hacking into him, and he's like, he's dead.
Too far.
He's dead. You did it. Let's go.
We're past the point of it being attractive that you're being stabby.
Yeah, it's like now it's a bit disturbing, I think. Yeah. Which is saying something for him, honestly. Like, okay. So he's in, gets frustrated that Poppy kind of puts herself, doesn't find out she puts herself, like, she's been taking that, like, sleeping stuff. And she's been sleeping for a long time after Victor's death, and voices these concerns to Tawny. And he just feels like a lot of guilt over Victor's death, because he's like, if our plan had gone the right way, like, and I didn't spend so much time with Poppy under the willow, like, maybe Victor would still be alive. Like, maybe none of this would have happened. Like, it's my fault he's dead. And Tawny tells Hawk, it's like, it's obvious you care about Poppy. She's like, I know it. I can tell. She's kind of like Kieran in that sense, where she's like, I know what's going on here. And she's like, I won't tell anyone. Don't worry. It's okay. But it's like, yeah, it's obvious, dude. Like, you like her a lot. Like, you're literally like not leaving her side.
I feel like Tawny's like, you like her. I approve.
Mm-hmm. I approve.
Yeah. 2 thumbs up.
What if Tawny and Kieran get together?
We still need to figure out what's going on with Tawny.
That's true. It's like, what are you now, Tawny?
What are you now? We don't know.
Are you like Millie?
Ooh, maybe. Okay, so then we see that Hawk sits beside Poppy while she sleeps, which is like really sweet and also slightly creepy when people watch you while you sleep.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there. And when she has these nightmares, because she's taking that sleeping draft, he like would speak to her and just his voice would calm her down. And then he feels really guilty about everything that's happened at the right, even though he had nothing to do with it. Like, he didn't have the Dissenters attack. And he can live with those deaths, but he's really struggling to live with the pain that she felt, right? Because he feels so guilty for everything that happened with Victor. And he wants to figure out a way for him to get what he needs and for her to have a life of freedom. And he feels this calm and peace whenever he's with her. And he hasn't wanted anything since he's been free until now, until her. And I'm like, how do you not pick up all the signs, dude?
Yeah, right?
And then the Duchess informs him that he needs to escort Poppy to the capital, which should make him happy, right? Because that's like one of the things they've talked about as a way to kidnap her. Yeah. But it doesn't, because he can't figure out a scenario yet that would give Poppy her freedom when it's all over. And then the Duchess stops by, and Hawk learns that Poppy has been taking the sleeping draft, which she gets rid of later, because basically she's drugging herself. And I'm like, isn't that what you did?
Yeah, right?
Kind of similar. So I do like that he's like kind of drawing a line, like, you need to stop. And then the Duchess Tierman also says, very interesting little tidbit, the Queen will be most pleased with your devotion, Hawk. I'm sure she'll reward you greatly for your service to the crown. And I'm like, Duchess Tierman knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, she knew who he was. I don't know when, but she knew at some point.
Yeah.
And then we see that, and I don't think we saw this scene in the first book, where Poppy snucks out again, planning to attack and kill Agnes, because she should have warned them sooner, and Hawk has to stop her from doing it. Like, he's trying to stop her from, like, breaking her soul further.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we didn't see that before. I don't believe we did. Yeah. And so the next, Casteel meets with Kieran at the Red Pearl again. And it's just funny because every time he's there, he's thinking of Poppy, honestly. He's like, damn it, I wish she was here. I wish I could be doing her on this bed. instead of doing stupid meetings. He's like, this could have been an email. Like,
Right?
And Commander Jansen helped Kieran get promoted to a huntsman so that he could be on the team that's going to escort Poppy to the capital. And Kieran challenges Casteel about why he didn't take Poppy after Victor was killed. He's like, you had so many, like, why didn't you do it then? Why didn't you do it now? It's like, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, Casteel is just giving all these excuses left and right. It's like, oh, well, that was, I couldn't do it there. And Kieran's like, nah, dude, you're acting weird. I'm going to call you out on this shit. And Casteel then is like, well, Poppy is strong. And, she's not like anything we've ever expected. Like, she's hungry, like, for life and experiences. And she's fierce and, vicious and, like, like, amazing. And they both agree, like, Kieran's going to like her, And Kieran's like, okay, all right, I like her. But I think you like her.
But does Kieran like her?
But does Kieran like her? I'm sure he will. And Casteel also shares, like, Poppy actually doesn't know the truth about the Ascended. He's like, and she like, doesn't know what she's doing in terms of all of this. Like, she doesn't agree with their practices, including the rites. She doesn't even know why she's chosen. And he's like, I believe if she had the choice, she wouldn't choose to be the maiden. And Casteel tells Kieran that his plans haven't changed necessarily. And Kieran challenges him on that. He's like, I think they have. I think they really have, buddy. And Casteel's like, nah, it's good. We're still the same. He just straight up lies. And then later, Poppy hugs Hawk. And then he's like, okay, maybe in a different life, like, we could have been together. He's like, maybe I would have been built for you. But he's like, this isn't real. Like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, we aren't meant to be together. Like, and it's so heartbreaking to read that because, like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Stop it. And Hawk then tells Poppy that the Duchess wants to speak to her, which Poppy immediately assumes is, like, a punishment of, like, oh, it's because of what I did to Lord Mazine, that, like, I murdered him brutally. And Hawk's like, I don't think so. He's like, and also, if that was the case, I wouldn't take you to go see her. Like, I would just, like, take you away. And he's like, I think it's because you're being summoned to the capital and we have to go.
Yeah. So we go back to the present. Casteel comments on how Duchess Tierman likely knew who he was, and that's why she was okay with him being in Poppy's chambers after the attack. He also thinks a lot about the lengths that parents are willing to go for their children, specifically what Isbitch, his parents, as well as Cora and Leopold have done. And then we jump back to the past again. And we learned that he named his horse Seti and raised him from a colt. So it's not the same horse that Etty's had. So the horses can't live forever, apparently.
Boo.
But also it's interesting that he chose that name. Mm-hmm. And then when Kieran first meets Poppy, he has a noticeable reaction as if he's truly seeing who she is, which I think is very fascinating.
Yes.
And then when Poppy laughs on the journey to the capital, Hawk loses his breath for the second time in his life. The first time was when he saw her at the rite, and his neck tingles and he feels enchanted. And I'm like, hello. Connect the dots.
Enchanted to meet you.
Oh, yes.
Right.
And then the group stops in the Blood Forest for the night, and Kieran comments on how he has heard Casteel laugh for the first time in a very long time. And I'm like, because you're finding yourself again. Yeah. And then Kieran, this surprised me, also suggests that Casteel help warm Poppy up before one of the other guys thinks about doing it. And Casteel's like, that would not happen. And Kieran's like, I mean, I bet it would.
Like, if Emil was here, he would.
Oh, God, can you imagine? And so then as Hawk, he lies together with Poppy in the Blood Forest. We get to see him he gets internally very angry when Poppy talks about how she'll be, like, paired with an Ascended who doesn't find her beautiful. And it makes him hate the Ascended even more for making her feel ashamed and flawed based on her scars. And then his chest gets, like, really tight when he thinks about Poppy being married off to someone else. And then, we know he offers to help her sleep by, as he says, giving her what she sought that night at the Red Pearl. And what we learn from his perspective, which I think was interesting, is that he keeps he's like, if I was a decent person, I wouldn't do this.
Yeah, true.
But he says he's not a decent person. And then after she has an orgasm, he feels complete without reaching completion, even though he's still rock hard, which is kind of like what we learned earlier when he talked about like what sex means to both Atlanteans and Wolvens.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also feels this warmth in his chest and feels satisfied that he's the first person to have ever brought her pleasure.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. You're just like, dude, you're marking her without having marked her yet.
exactly.
Like, she's been yours from the get-go. Like, you brought her everything, her first everything. So then the next morning, he is, desperate for a way to save his brother and also to save Poppy, not sending her back to the Ascended. He knows that, like, when Poppy learns the truth about him, she's going to hate him. And then, like, she's going to, like, hate herself for, like, falling for it, And he's, like, internally also struggling with that. So then Kieran questions Casteel, like, what happened between you and Poppy under the blanket? He's like, has this happened before? Like, I think Poppy likes you too, Casteel. He's like, I noticed it for the first time when I saw you together. And Casteel just tries to play it off as like, oh no, it's all part of the plan. If she likes me, she'll trust me. Everything will work out easier. And Kieran literally has to just like remind Casteel like what his task is. And Casteel knows he should tell Kieran everything about what's going on in his head, of course. But he's like, nah, now's not the time. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you what I'm really thinking about Poppy. And Hawk is just in awe and disbelief again when he sees Poppy use her powers to just ease one of the pain of the guards that gets killed in the Craven attack. So it's the guy Eric and his like guts are hanging out and stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, he's going to die. He's
going to be dead.
He's going to be dead. And she uses the touch and he's just like, wow, like she's amazing. All these rumors must have been true that she was healing these people with death with dignity. And then he's like, could she be part Atlantean, perhaps? Like him and Kieran are like, this is strange. Immortals shouldn't be able to do this. Like, things that make you go, And then Kieran starts to call Casteel out on calling her Poppy. He's like, that's interesting. You're not calling her the Maiden or Penelope. Like, you're using the nickname that people that are close to her would use. And typical Kieran, of course, he's just like dropping lots of vague comments here, like without just coming out and saying what he's thinking. Like, dude, just let him know what you think. Like, Kieran's like, I think you like her. I think you love her. Here's all X, Y, and Z reasons why. And then we get a funny little bit where Kieran goes, hey, Casteel, is Poppy still a maiden? Is she still a virgin? And it's like, do not do anything to her. Like, there is no reason for you to take away her virginity. All right, buddy? Like, she does not deserve that. And it's going to fuck with her head. And Casteel's like, yeah, I know. I'm not going to do that. And it's like, dude, it's so funny to see how, like, Kieran is, like, so protective now over Poppy without even, like, realizing it. It's like, he's looking out for her. He's like, dude, you're going to fuck with this girl's head. Like, that's not cool.
That's not okay.
She is nice. She's a nice girl. Like, let's not completely mess up with her head. But yeah, it's so funny because he's like, don't do this. Don't have sex with her. And Casteel's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Why would I do that?
I want to do.
I'm not that kind of guy. Just wait. So we jump back to the present. We have Casteel, Kieran, and Delano who are still with Poppy. And then finally, Millicent and Malik show up with Niall. And Millicent knows that there's something wrong with Poppy. And like, since she's not awake, because like the Wolven are growling at her and Malik. Yeah. And she was like, she would wake up. There's like a big Wolven growling. And Casteel's like, it's none of your business. And then this is where I think it's interesting because she responds, that's my sister. So she does feel like this very sisterly connection and bond to her. And then we learn that she did spend time with Poppy when she was a child. And she says she used to watch over her. And Poppy was always in the underground chambers, making us wonder, was she visiting the cave cat?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Right? And then Millicent seems relieved when she learns that her father's free. Casteel asks why she ran, and she tells him it was because the primal of life has awakened, and no one hates revenants more than her. And it's not because they're abominations, but because it's personal. So she thought, like, Sarah, her grandmother, or Poppy would kill her. And I'm like, damn.
What'd you do?
Also, I would like to understand about why the primal of life hates revenants so much and why revenants existing are very personal to her. Because we've not learned that in the first 2 books. So I
Yeah,
got
we don't know.
questions. And then Millicent stays with Poppy and just kind of like watches her
Yeah.
while Malik and Casteel go out in the hall. And all I thought when this first started happening was like, they're going to beat the shit out of each other.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's about to go down.
It's about to go down. It kind of does.
But it kind of does, yeah. Malik shares that like he and Millie fought off some of the revenants that were initially loyal to Isbitch. And he's like, by the way, they can be killed by Drakenfire and Draken Blood. And the Primal of Death, both of them, and the Primal of Life can kill them. And Casteel's like, okay, so that should mean that Poppy can kill them, right? Like, there
but also
is...
how?
But how? Like, yeah, like...
Any more details?
Yeah.
Like, shoot ether? Like, what happens?
Yeah. And also, it's like, okay, so you can have vials of dragon blood and stuff. Like, it's not going to, like, burn through. Like, is there a special container for this? Like, I'm also curious about that. Because Isbitch, has these vials of dragon blood. And if you make a revenant ingest it, or, like, you shoot them in the heart or the head with, like, an arrow or blade that's been, like, dipped in that blood, they'll die. So I'm like, okay, there is a way. Everything can be killed. But I just have questions about how... Yeah, besides Colas, yeah, it's like, I'm like, how do you get this in there? Like, how does this...
And how do you dip your sword, like your sword or your arrow in Draken blood and not, like, let it drip and touch you and you die?
Right? Or it doesn't, like, disintegrate the arrow or the sword. Like,
right?
Is it a special kind? Is it
any?
Like, yeah.
Because Dragon Fire can melt iron.
Yeah. So it's like, is it...
We're thinking probably way too much into this.
I know. Yeah. Maybe these questions will be answered later. Who knows? But we have these questions, of course. And then Malik, of course, questions Casteel about what his plan is now. And he's like, all right, you've taken the blood crown. Like, that means you're the king and queen of Solis as well. Like, what's your plan? And they have this little conversation about why Malik didn't tell Casteel that he wasn't being held captive. He's like, why didn't you send me a letter? Like, a pigeon, smoke fire, like, whatever. Like, why didn't you tell me that this was happening? He's like, Casteel, like, he was like, I would have stopped trying to, like, get to you. Like, I wouldn't have gone this far. And Malik says, like, Casteel, you wouldn't have believed it, and you would have still come anyway. He's like, and I never wanted you to come. He's like, I didn't want you to come after me, but, like, nothing I could have done would have ever stopped you. So it's just like, you know, it's nothing to be done. Like, why? What could I have done? And then Malik also shares that Isbitch knew about how Malik felt about Millicent, and that she probably would have made him choose between keeping her alive or keeping Casteel. And he's like, I couldn't have made that choice between my brother and my heartmate. Like,
well,
and
Casteel would have been his heartmate.
Yes. And Casteel's like, I get that. Trying to put himself in his brother's shoes, and he's like, okay, all right, this makes sense. This tracks. That was very difficult for you. And then Malik also admits, like, he's like, I would have been a terrible king. He's like, I probably would have started a war and just got myself killed, or, like, even worse. Like, I would have let Alistair run the kingdom, like, you know, like, all my advisors, like, and honestly, he's like, yeah, you would have been a shitty king. And, like, Casteel's like, yeah, I was always, like, taking all those classes, like, seriously. And Malik's like, you would have been better than me. Like, come on. And we then also learned a little bit personal stuff, that Malik has never even kissed Millie because she hates him. Okay, so you're heartmates and she hates you. And he's like, well, that sounds familiar because that's a lot about how Poppy and Casteel were, you know? Like,
but a little different. They at least kissed before she hated him.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
I'm also like, I really need to understand how he knows their heartmates.
Yeah, we need a book on them.
I need a book or, like, a lot more information.
Yes. And then we get one more big bomb here. Callum apparently told all the Revenants, fucking this guy, told all the Revenants that Colas created them. And so now they're going to do everything to bring him back to his full power. So it's like, okay, initially the Revenants were all loyal to Isbitch. Now they're all loyal to Colas, which is worse. And you're like,
does that mean that, like, she wasn't creating Revenants and all the ones that exist were created by Colas?
Right?
Or are they just dumb and Colum, like, she did create some and Colum just told them they were created by Colas because, like, he created the first one?
Yeah, maybe. He's like,
I
I
don't
don't want
know.
to lose your loyalty, so everybody just go to Colas. And it's like,
Yeah.
what role do you play in here? Who are you, Callum?
And why do you like Colas so much?
Right? Are you in love with Colas?
Are you secret
Ooh.
lovers? That would make it
Secret
really interesting.
love. Yeah, maybe.
I don't think so, but that would make it really
No.
interesting. Okay, so we jump back to kind of the past where Castile is talking about when him and Poppy were first together. We learned that, like, when they get to New Haven, that it's completely run by dissenters, which is why the rides and the homes are in good condition. One of my favorite little nuggets is that Elijah calls Delano a marshmallow because he's all gooey and soft on the inside. And I never thought about Delano in that way until I read this. And then now I think back and I'm like, he is a marshmallow.
And even when he's in his woven form, he's just like
He's
sitting
just,
like by Poppy's feet, just like,
he's just a little cute marshmallow. I
oh,
mean, he'll
marshmallow.
still cut a bitch and kill
Oh,
you,
yeah.
but
He's a
cute little
spicy marshmallow. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a scene between Elijah, Castile, Delano, and Neil about what to do with the guards. And Delano's like, "Can we persuade some of them to join us rather than kill them?" And I'm like, now you are definitely a marshmallow. And then Castile
He's
makes
thinking
it
like
very,
Poppy too.
he is, right? Very much so. And then Castile makes it very clear no one's to harm the maiden. And then we get to see Poppy ask Hawk to stay the night with her at New Haven. And he, like, in his mind, it was so fascinating to read because he knows he should leave. Otherwise, he's going to lose himself in her because it's so easy for him to live right alongside her. Because I don't think he's been living for the last 100 years since he escaped. And he wants to be a good man and walk away since he knows he's not deserving of her, but he's not a good man. He says he's only hers. And I melted. So, and then, like, when they finally have sex, we learn that, like, he says this changes everything, which is very double meaning because obviously it changes a lot for her, but it also changes a lot for them because he now feels even more convicted that he has to find a way out for her. And then there's also this really heartbreaking aspect to their night because before all the bad shit goes down, because he doesn't think he's ever going to be able to experience this with her again. And when he thinks about that, it causes him actual pain. So, like, this night for her is very, before all the bad things go down, very glorious. Like, having sex for the first time, like, when we read her perspective, it's wonderful. For him, it's wonderful. But then, like, afterwards, he feels, like, almost gutted because of it. Like, and then we also find devastated, right? And we also find him, he wants to bite her during sex, which is an urge he's never felt with sex with a mortal before. And I'm like, hello, another breadcrumb. How did he miss all of them? They're large. They're like baguettes hitting him upside the head right now. Like, hello, anyone home? So then afterwards, he thinks about having to tell her the truth in the morning about the Ascended so he can prepare her for what she'll find in the capital when he exchanges her for his brother. And then he, like, says to himself, like, so she can survive until he gets to her again. And the mere thought of that sickens him. So, like, his plan now is, like, to still exchange her, but then to go back to the capital by himself and rescue her.
Which you're like,
oh, like, just the amount of emotional turmoil that he put himself through because of how he felt about her. I don't think we have any sense of that when we read the first book.
Yeah. Like, we get, like, maybe a tiny glimpses of him being like, well, I've changed my mind, you know, like, I'm going to take you. But yeah, it's like getting in his head of, like, why he does X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh, God.
And how long he thought about it.
Than we thought.
Yeah. And I like it.
And I like it. Yes, please. Doc one. Mm-hmm. So then later, Castile learns from Magda that 2 guards have already been killed, and there is word from home, and meaning Atlantia. And we see Castile meet with Orion. Orion,
I think.
Yeah, Orion, that guy. Or we just call him Oreo. That's fun too. And he has a note from Atlantia from Emil, and it's, you know, definitely already been read. He can tell from, like, the seal. He's like, you've read this note already. But Emil's very good at, like, encoding things. And it says that Alistair and the king know about his plan to capture the maiden, and that the king is now on his way to New Haven. And Orion then shares that plan that the king plans to kill the maiden and send the blood crown her head as a message. And needless to say, Casteel is very upset about that. And he's like, nope, nope, I don't want that to happen at all. So I'm going to send a message too. And like literally rips out Orion's heart. And you're like, oh.
Talk about don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, bad plan. So meanwhile, like Elijah's just like, damn, like in his office. And he's just like, shit, don't piss off this guy, you know, like he will literally rip your heart out. And so then Casteel has a plan to leave to meet up with his dad at this place called Burkton. And he's like, I can't because like these other guards are about to like escape with Poppy, you know? And he's like, that's not good. He's like, he feels complete terror about like her finding out the truth this way. And he's like, I know like what happened between the two of them will be over. It's like what he feels. And like the hurt again, like cripples him. He's just like, oh shit. And he's like, all right, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut these feelings down. I need to deal with this shit first. And Elijah then tries to talk some sense into Casteel about watching how he acts around the maiden. Because he's like, you know, people know what you did to Jericho. And like, they also know like where you spent your night last night. So be careful. Like, people may not be too happy to find out that you're friendly with the maiden. Like, super friendly. And then basically, you know, they have to chase down Poppy and the guards in the barn and, you know, kill all the remaining guards, which is traumatizing for Poppy, of course. And Kieran and Casteel are talking about Poppy and about what happened between them tonight. And Kieran legit calls him out finally and letting Poppy get the upper hand on him in the stables like multiple times. He's like, you could have easily like taken her out, you know, like won, but like you didn't. You held back. You let her get the upper hand. And Casteel again is ready to like go against his father for her now. And Kieran is just like, dude, can you stop keeping secrets from me? Like, we're besties. Like, please talk to me. Casteel's like, yeah. I'll tell you about it later when I get back. And it's just like, sure you will. Sure you will. You're going to share your heart secrets with Kieran? Barely baby steps. But Kieran's like, just trying to get it out of him. Like, tell me how you really feel about this chick. He's like, no. So then Poppy, you know, is locked up in her cell because she was a fighter. She's a bit vicious, a bit violent, a violent little thing as well, if you will. And Poppy and Hawk are alone in her cell together. And he's just like upset because she's starting to question if any of it was real. And that was like the last thing he ever said to her. Like, don't forget, like, this all was real. Now she's like, I don't believe you. I don't think it is. And he's like pissed. He's like, I know this is my fault and I shouldn't have expected you to like think that this was all real. But again, he's just like, this was real and this happened between us and I don't know what else I can do. And now he's like trying to strategize like a different plan. Like, how do I keep her?
What do I do next? Yeah.
What do I do? What's the next plan? But I'm not going to tell anything to Kieran. I'm not going to be truthful to my friend.
Well, I also love that he was like, when I said take her someplace, I didn't mean that like the cells. And they're like, yeah. But she was attacking.
She was stabby.
She was like.
What were we supposed to do? We had to restrain her somehow.
Exactly. So we get back to the present. Casteel admits that there are a lot of things he would have done differently back then because he was already in love with her and just didn't realize it. He thought that love wasn't something that like he had earned in his life. Mm-hmm. And then we also learned kind of like he's in present day, but kind of telling the story that Alistair was in Burkton, not the king. And he was able to convince Alistair that the situation was under control and to go back to Atlantia, which Alistair was like fine doing. Yeah. But if Valen would have been there, he would have come to New Haven and all hell basically would have broken loose because Casteel wouldn't have let him hurt Poppy and he would have killed his own father before he let that happen. That's pretty, bad. That'd have been bad. Yeah. And he also talks about how he felt complete fear when he heard about how she was attacked on his way back to New Haven. So when he had left to go meet who he thought was the king, and they were coming back, him and Kieran, he like could hear like the wolven howling, and then he freaked out. Okay, yeah, and that's supposedly when Kieran says he knew Casteel was actually in love with Poppy. So then we switch back to kind of like the past, and they're coming back from Burkton, And he knows, like, from the Woven house that Poppy was injured somehow, and he sends, like, Kieran ahead in his Woven form. And there is this mention, because you know how I obsess over this stuff, he says, some sort of primal instinct warned me there was no time to waste. And I'm like, it's not capitalized, but it is a very interesting and intentional word choice.
It just makes me think, when Nektas was like, primal. And like Reaver was like, primal mode. Like,
but I'm not a primal.
It says primal.
I know.
But yeah, it's a good thing to pick up on. You're like,
So then Neil meets him outside the keep, tells him that Kieran took Poppy up to Casteel's room, and it's bad. And he also says that Poppy saved Delano's life, and he's not sure why. And then Kieran tries to warn Casteel off from giving Poppy his blood, but Casteel's like, no, don't listen. Doesn't listen, and uses compulsion to get Poppy to drink. And then we see him focus on this. This is interesting to me. The Stroud Seas and this cavern that we see them in later, right? While Poppy feeds. And he even mentions feeling like she's inside his head.
Oh, yeah.
And then things happen. She ends up stabbing Casteel.
She's stabby.
We know that. She's stabby. Right? She tries to stab him in the heart. And then Kieran apparently gets all like, I just said it, like wolven-y. And Casteel has to like tell him to stand down. And then he says, she is mine.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I love that phrase in books.
Is
mine. Or mine.
Mine. But not like the birds in Finding Nemo.
That's
like
what I was just thinking.
Mine.
Like,
no.
Like a
not
sexy
that kind of
mine.
Like a sexy mine.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Very, very much so. So we then learn that Casteel almost descends into complete madness when he finds Poppy in the snow. Like he did when he realized that Shay betrayed him. And it causes him to just bite Poppy and like leave his fangs in at first, which makes it feel like being burned alive. But he stops himself. And so he's like, oh, okay, I don't want to hurt her, like, but also like they're kind of going at it. Like, it's like a hate sex, if you will. Yeah. And so he's just like, all right, now I'm going to bite her, but I don't really want to hurt her. And he realizes then when he's like drinking her, he's like, oh my God, she's part Atlantean. And he feels like joy from that because he like things are starting to like click for him. He's like, wait a second. If you're part Atlantean, I can figure out another way out for this. Maybe I don't have to give you back to the Ascended. And of course, also he's very happy to realize that she is also still sexually attracted to him and like wants to fuck him after everything that happened. He's like, okay, good. She still likes me. That's great. That's good to know.
Or at least to talk.
Or at least yeah, exactly. Like, So he is also like very shocked about how possessive he feels over Poppy and how, again, he keeps feeling like she's mine because he's never felt that way about anyone before. I don't think he even felt that way about Shay, honestly.
No.
And so he takes her back to the keep and he's like literally, having to carry her because he ripped all her clothes off. So darn. Whoopsies.
Rats.
That was my favorite scene ever though. I'm like, and so rereading all of that, I was like, yes.
Also, I still have questions about like, how can you have sex in the snow and not freeze?
Right? Well, it's all that body heat. So good. But they get back to the keep. And Casteel tells Kieran that Poppy is part Atlantean. And they're like, no shit. No way. How do you know? Are you sure? Are you sure about that? He's like, oh, I know. I tasted her blood. I know. And Kieran tells Casteel, he's like, okay, you know what? I'll keep her safe. Like, not because she's part Atlantean, but because she's yours. And it's like, oh yeah. And it's like, Casteel, don't even try to deny this now. Like, after the lengths that he's gone to like keep her safe and like what he's about to do now to ensure like what happened in that cell doesn't happen again. Like, he's like, I'm going to kill all these motherfuckers. Like, finally admits to Kieran. He's like, all right, yeah, I care about her. You're right. You're right. And Kieran's like, I think you're in love with her. Like, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's more than caring. You love. And then we learn that because Delano owes Poppy his life, it's an unbreakable oath from a Wolven. And now he's like, I will guard her with my life, even if it's against Casteel, if it came to it. And that explains why Delano is just so close to Poppy. And it's like, they have such a strong relationship. Even though like Poppy like doesn't really know anything about this oath. She's just like, we're just good friends, But it's like, no, that's strong. It's a strong oath you got going on there. And again, we see Casteel like literally murder every single person one by one who comes and harms Poppy, except for Jericho, who gets to suffer for a bit longer. And the interesting tidbit we get here from the scene is that Casteel whispers the truth about Poppy being half Atlantean and his plan to marry her to Jericho, which finally shuts him up. And it's like, yeah, buddy, you're going down. And it's like, you're hung up on that wall. State.
Yep.
Like, ooh.
All right, so then we jump back to the present. We're in the present for the rest of the book. And Poppy's skin feels like almost normal. The shadows under her eyes are gone, which causes Casteel to assume she's going to wake soon. And he's sent Kieran and Delano to meet his father and ensure that their arrival, his father and the troops in Carcedonia, doesn't cause any upheaval. And I'm like, why are we sending Kieran and Delano away? That seems like a dumb move. I mean, I get why, but also that seems not great. Yeah. And then Casteel shares on how he was the edge of falling in love with her before they left Macedonia, began falling in love with her in New Haven, and knew he was in love with her when they got to Spessa's End, which is going to be like right book 2. Yeah. And then it just took him to realize that he could be worthy of such an emotion, that he could allow himself to love and be loved in return. And I was just like, oh, this is why he's like just top tier.
Top tier boyfriend.
Top tier. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, a fucking Revenant shows up through the window, which I still have a lot of questions about. Like, I'm like, where?
Did you fly? How did you get in here?
Fly? Can they jump? Are they like those Cimmerians that we see that can kind of like quasi-fly out of nowhere?
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyways, then he has a bone from the ancients. I'm like, where are all of these fucking deity bones coming from?
Right.
This is worse than a deity bone. An ancient bone can kill a god with a prick and incapacitate a primal. And I'm like, that's not great. And then he says to Casteel, he calls him, he goes, you fucking idiot, false primal.
So
and I'm like,
Casteel's
Casteel's a primal. That's what we're thinking. And then the Revenant throws a dagger at Poppy, but Casteel catches it in his hand, and then he gets like this small cut that burns, and the blade is scalding to the touch, which is like, I feel like really important for us to know. And then the Revenant stabs Casteel in the chest with a dagger, which causes an incredible pain and makes it impossible for Casteel to move.
I thought it was very, very interesting that he gets stabbed almost in the exact same spot that Poppy had stabbed him.
Yes.
And he even mentions that. He's like, uh-oh. This is very similar. It's not good. I remember the spot. There's scar tissue there.
Not great.
Okay.
And then the Revenant heads towards Poppy and says, what a pretty little flower, what a powerful poppy, pick it and watch it bleed. And I was like, that is the same fucking song she heard the night she was attacked by the Craven. So once again, like that night has to be tied to Colas. I'm convinced that there's something going on with all of this. And wait till we get to theories and I'll tell you the crazy shit that my mind has created. So then the Rev says he's been waiting so long for what is his. And I'm like, excuse me, what the fuck?
What is his? What is it?
I'm going to tell you what I think it is. It's not great for Poppy.
Uh-oh.
It's not great for Poppy.
Not good, not good. But what's even crazier is like Casteel now has this like primal instinct and shifts, and you're just like, what is he shifting into? His claws are coming out, his back is bending. I was thinking like, is he a dragon? I mean, that's
oh god, can you imagine like a dragon?
Oh my god, it'd be so cool. But no. He shifts into a fucking black and gold cave cat.
Cave cat.
And the Revenant's like, impossible. And needless to say, Casteel then rips apart that Revenant in his cave cat form, just like goes to pieces, decapitates him, like caving in his like body, just like bye-bye.
Is the Revenant dead now though?
But yes, it's true. They say they can like regrow their parts. So
that's a lot of parts to regrow.
Yeah, ew. Also, which part starts the regrowing? Like, is it the body? Is it the head? Because if he's in pieces, is he like regrowing like multiples? Did he like duplicate?
Bring it all together, like scoop it up and put it in a cell?
Like, yeah, look, what happens if they just like take all those pieces and just like throw them in the ocean in different spots? Or burn them. Like, questions. So then Kieran and others show up, but Casteel is still in his cave cat form and doesn't recognize them at all. And he's just like, he has this like mentality of like, I recognize you, Kieran, like your smell, like you smell of Poppy and me. He's like, and it calls him mine. And Casteel just can't really hear what they're saying exactly, but he's like struggling to understand like who they are until Kieran like realizes like, oh shit. And he can like talk to him through his mind. He's like, okay, I'm gonna try talking to him like, Kaz, it's me. We're together. Yes, she's mine. She is yours too. Like, and like he is ours too. Like, don't kill the other guys with me.
Don't kill Emil.
Don't kill Emil, even though he wants him to be a meal. Like, he literally is like, you are a meal. Which maybe that's why he's like, I want to eat him. Because he used to drink from him. He's like, I want to eat you. I'm going to eat your food. And it's bad. And basically, Kieran has to like literally walk him through, walk Casteel through, like coming back and shifting back. He's like, Poppy needs you. Like, think of it as like how you do compulsions. Like, you have to just like will yourself into it, and then it clicks, and he shifts back. And Kieran says Casteel looked just like Iris when he shifted. So like he assumes like it has something to do with being tied to like the bond that formed during the joining, perhaps. He's like, Casteel says he felt primal ether when he shifted. And it's like, okay, like that's interesting. But then they also make a note of like, oh my God, Poppy is going to be so excited when she finds out that she can like maybe shift. They're just like, she's going to be stoked. But there's no time for that because then the ground starts shaking like earthquakes because Poppy is starting to finally wake up. And she wakes up and like there's this like light all inside of her skin, like shooting out of her. They can like see all of her veins and they're just like, holy shit. And she opens her eyes, but they're no longer green. No trace of this dewy green. Instead, there's just like molten silver, like a primal. And boom.
Like the primal.
The primal. And then bookends.
And I'm like, excuse me, what?
Like, does she remember? Does she know who they are?
What's the first question she's going to ask? She's going to have a lot of questions. We know she's going to have a lot of questions.
Right? Yeah. Oh, so good. And then immediately was like, where's the rest? I need more right now.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on to Hot and Steamy. This book, so we rated From Blood and Ashes a 3. Mm-hmm. We get 2 more scenes in this book. So it felt like a 3.5.
Yeah. 3.5, maybe 3. Because it was kind of a repeat. But
it was a repeat.
Still good, though.
So it was so good. Okay. Yeah. So we have, obviously, Casteel. And it was interesting because I'm like, they're not chapters, they're chapter titles. We have The Maiden and the Red Pearl, where they get like a little frisky. And it was interesting because like when you read her perspective of it, it's a lot more detailed. Like it feels like a much bigger thing to her. And to him, I had to read it a couple times and I was like, this doesn't feel very spicy.
Yeah, you're like,
huh. But the part that I liked about it was like as he's touching her, one of the things he says is, tell me what you enjoy so I can make you love it. But she doesn't know.
She doesn't know. They're going to explore it together. And then you get kind of the next little part where like the chapter's like haunted. And Hawk masturbates while thinking about the maiden. And you're like, okay, all right. And kind of a interesting part of it was that he was just like, my head fell back again as my hand pumped. He's like, I swore I could hear her voice. He's like, that mouth of hers was just as arousing as her soft curves. And he's thinking about her grabbing the bloodstone dagger. And he's like, she handled it like she knew how. And you're like, okay, clearly you're turned on by her violence because she's stabby. Yeah. And he's just like, breathing deeply, I lay there, heart slow to calm. Damn, I hadn't come that quickly or hard in a long time. So it's like, you are definitely turned on by her, buddy. You want her
very much
so much. Yes.
Well, especially because like the next spicy scene we get is in the chapter called Plans of Not Change, where Casteel walks in on Kieran having sex with a woman at the Red Pearl. And like Kieran's like, I would have asked if you consider knocking, but obviously that didn't cross your mind. And Casteel's like, I didn't realize you'd have company. And he's like, I assume not. And he's not. I just want to point something out. He doesn't stop fucking her.
Yeah, he's still just going.
He's just going as they're having this conversation. He's like, "You're earlier than I expected." And Casteel's like, "Clearly." And then Kieran's like, "Well, since you're here, care to join?" And I was like, okay, a couple things. One, clearly they've shared women before.
Yes.
We learned from this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is not something that new.
No.
But then we get kind of this part as like, because Casteel's not interested. And he's like, no. So he just like sits in a chair and watches. But then in his mind, he says, my fantasies decided to put her on that bed between Kieran and me. And man, just imagining that packed a sensual punch. So what I think is interesting is when she, like in A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, when she brings up the joining and everything, like he kind of downplays that, like
most as if he's not really thinking about it,
or has never thought about it, or is not interested, like has zero desire to it. Like we really don't see him like talk about it seriously with her until the War of Two Queens. And I'm like, dude, you were in book 1 thinking about the two of you and her. Like,
Yeah, it was happening. And again, I'm like, Kieran can fuck. And so I'm like,
we need more details.
Can we get a little bit more about that, please? I would like to know. Like, tight control of his thrusts, grounding her ass, like gripping her, and just like, okay. How you... Kieran, can we chat really quick? And then we get the chapter called Willow, which is where Hawk and Poppy get handsy underneath the willow. And he just, is talking about basically her like riding on top of him. And she shook, grinding down on me, and fuck, it was the most exquisite torture there was. I gripped her legs, dragging her just a bit to the right where she was fully pressed hard against my length. And she murmurs, Hawk, moaning against his mouth, squirming against me, and then moving back and forth. And gods, I helped her find that pace. Poppy rode me through my breeches and whatever flimsy undergarment she wore. I felt that heat between her thighs as addictive as her kisses. He's like, I wanted to lose everything in what I knew was her slick heat. My arms trembled. I shuddered with want. The image of her beneath me. And he's just like, to lift her once more, to just do what I imagined because that sliver of decent man was even thinner now. It's like he's breaking. He's breaking. He can't handle it.
Well, and I think when we read the scene from Poppy's perspective, like it was a big deal to her, but like he stops it like so abruptly, which we learn in this book is because like she's like tonguing his teeth.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, oh no, I have fangs.
Right. And he's like so into it. I think like that's what's really interesting. Okay. Then we get to the chapter called Her Pleasure, which is when Hawk gives Poppy an orgasm in the Blood Forest. And there's a lot of things about this that I like in his perspective that I don't remember reading the first time.
Yeah.
But because he says, like, imagine what my fingers would feel like with nothing between them and your skin. I would do this. I would get inside you, Poppy. I would taste you. I bet you're as sweet as honeydew. I don't remember him saying that in the Blood Forest.
I don't remember him saying that either.
I don't remember him saying that until New Haven.
Yeah.
And then there's this part where like he said, like in his head, he says, that's my girl, I thought, as I returned to stroking her. And I was like, how are you not seeing this? Like you are so possessive over her already.
So possessive. And then he makes her come for the first time.
Right?
And he's also like happy about that. Remember?
Exactly. Well, like, I think pretty much Kieran's also watching. He's probably happy about it too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and now it's Kieran's turn to watch, right? And then we get the chapter called This Is Real, where Hawk and Poppy have sex, loses her virginity, officially. And he calls her a honeydew. And you're like, yes, please. So wonderful. And he's just like, tension builds, and I knew I wouldn't last long, not after tasting her, not after feeling her come against my mouth. It's like I let go of her hip, moving my hand between us, finding her clit as I ground against her, my release building. It felt like descending into madness as I tore my mouth from hers and my gaze fixed on her features. And then you get to the part where she finally like comes, And he says, my jaw throbbed. My lips parted as she unashamedly found her pleasure. And he can tell, like, he wants to bite her so badly. He says, my fangs pressed against my lips. Every part of my body tensed. My head started to lower, lips parting. And then Poppy's eyes fluttered open, locking with mine. She placed a hand against my cheek, and she whispered, Hawk. It's like, they just love each other in that moment. It's like their own initial joining.
Well, and then we get the chapter in the snow where they have, after she stabs him, and they have sex in the snow.
Just a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound. And it's funny because she was like, because like in her perspective, she's like, you know, I was a couple minutes, took you a couple of minutes to catch up to me. And she thinks it's because he's slow. It's not, because he's dealing with Kieran, who like is in wolf-any form. But he says, I couldn't take my eyes off her as she rode me. The pleasure on her face and her parted lips and glazed over eyes. The sway of her heavy breasts, the tips of them disappearing behind the shredded shirt, only to reappear as she found an angle that caused her to gasp. Watching her take control, finding her pleasure was the hottest fucking thing I'd ever seen. And it undid me. And I was like, I
bet it did.
I bet it did, right? And then he says, fucking gods, the release lasted a small eternity. I was still twitching deep inside her when I pressed my forehead to hers. We remained like that for some time. Our bodies joined, my hand at her waist, my thumb moving idly as our hearts and breathing slowed. We stayed in the falling snow longer than we probably should have, but I was reluctant to leave her because she was God's, she was mine.
Yes.
Like,
yes. You love her.
You love her. It's so clear.
She's yours.
And she's yours. And Kieran's now too.
And Kieran's.
Yeah. Okay.
But not a meal.
Not a meal. Definitely never a meal.
No meal.
Or a meal will become a meal.
Yes.
Okay. Time to theorize. We have a lot of theories. So we're going to start with...
Time.
We have a lot of theories from the Flesh and Fire series and this series. So we put together only the ones that are kind of relevant to what we learn in this story. Not the other 40 that are still outstanding or some crazy. Okay, so these are going to be just the ones that are relevant to after this book and after A Light in the Flame, and where they currently stand. We do know now, are Victor and Sir Holland the same person? Nope, they are definitely different Victors, but they are both Victors, and Victor with an E-R was the first Victor with an O-R. It's really confusing to wrap your brain around that sometimes.
Yeah, you got the Victors, Maliks, the Maliks,
Right?
There's a lot going on.
There's only one is bitch, though.
Is bitch, yep. And there's only one Casteel. Now, but is it possible that Casteel can have his own Victor, too? I still think he might, because, like, he has, you know, like, he's the descendant of a god, potentially, and now he might be a primal, so it's like, who's to say that a man can't have a Victor as well?
Exactly. Okay.
And who would it be? If he did have a Victor in this entire time, who would it be?
Can you imagine if it was Kieran? What if it's a meal?
What? That'd be hilarious.
Oh my god, that would be so hilarious.
Or what if it was like, not like Elijah Jensen?
Or Jasper?
Jasper. What if it was
It has
also
to be
Victor?
someone that's
they
been
share
with
the same
him.
Victor. Right?
He does help him a lot, though. And you can have more than one Victor for someone that's really important, we learned, right?
That's true.
Okay. Does the full prophecy mean that Poppy, Millie, Casteel, and Malik will be the ones to remake the realms? Okay, we didn't learn anything in this book that changes our belief that the four of them could be involved, which we still think is possible, is what we're going. However, I've thought more on this. And so now I'm starting to wonder if perhaps the prophecy is about Sarah, Nektas, Poppy, and Casteel. Because Sarah is also a first daughter and was once fated, right? Because she was destined to be the consort of the primal of death, who was the once promised king of the gods. He was supposed to be the primal of life, which would have been the king of the gods. So that's like another possibility.
Yeah, I think it's those four. I don't think Millie and Malik are going to be in this foursome. I think it's going to be Sarah, Nektas, Poppy, Casteel. Yeah. The only way I could see it being his brother instead is if, like, literally Sarah and Nektas, like, somehow have kind of, like, moved on and, like, their souls
like if they
are
go
now again.
to what's it called? Crap, I just forgot my Arcadia.
No, Arcadia, yeah. And it's like Poppy and Casteel are like them reincarnated in that way.
But we know they're still alive.
But they're still alive, so it's like, so who knows? TBD.
TBD.
Now, did Poppy spend time with her sister when she was younger? Yes, we were absolutely right on this one. Millie confirms that like she spent a lot of time with her sister as a child. Not sure exactly if Poppy remembers it. She kind of talked about like her being familiar, I think, at one point, but like, who knows? But yeah, it's like, okay, she's definitely was still there, looking out for her little sister in the best way she could, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's more to that story. It'd be interesting to learn, to get a book from her perspective or some chapters about the past. Okay. One of the questions we had was, will the primal of life be able to help Millie no longer be a revenant? So we got questions on this one. Supposedly the primal life hates revenants because it's too personal, and that's why Millie ran away from the Bone Temple. So that doesn't bode well for like revenants in general.
No.
However, like we said earlier, we don't think Millie's a typical revenant.
Yeah.
We also can't imagine her grandmother killing her.
Yeah.
Especially given like what Sarah has said about how she would burn down the realms for her children. I think that Poppy and Millie would fit into that bucket. And then there are too many unique things about Millie. So like I do think someone is going to help her. I just don't know if that's going to be Sarah or if that's going to be Poppy.
Did Millie have her own Victor?
Ooh.
During all this time?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That Victor did a shit job because she died.
Fucked up. Yeah, that didn't work out very well for them. Mm-mm. That's when they originally were like, you know what? That Victor failed. Let's send in the OG Victor.
We're going to send the OG Victor in. Papa Victor needs to come.
Yeah, we need to clean up this mess. It was not good. Touche. So, okay, now is Poppy going to be able to shift at some point? Well, yes, maybe no. We don't know. Like, we're right. Like, she might have this ability. We just haven't seen her do it yet because we didn't know that Cass could do it, and he can. Cass the cat. Cass cat.
So, one of the things we talked about last time was what was the point of jumping back and forth between Poppy and Casteel's POV? We thought there was more to it. And obviously the introduction of Cass's POV in the War of Two Queens was preparing for us to get this entire book in his POV. It also makes us wonder if we're going to start to see more POVs in the next book in the series, The Primal of Blood and Bone.
I like it when the author does this because
I do too.
The whole story can't be just a single person's POV. Like, and that's how life is, you know? Like, everybody's involved, and it's cool to get someone else's perspective on all this shit that's going on in this world. And then I'm like, well, what is this person thinking? What is that person thinking? Like, I want to know. Then you run that dangerous game of like, how many point of views do we need?
It's too many. Yeah.
It's too many. I don't know. So, okay. Will we get another spicy scene between Poppy, Casteel, and Kieran? God, I hope so. I hope so. Yes. Please. Especially since we learned that they've shared women before. And apparently, you know, Kieran has definitely been attracted to Poppy for a long time. Much longer than we realized. Because they also mentioned it when Kieran was like looking at her in the bathtub. He's like, I didn't hate what I was looking at. It was nice. How weird would it be, though, if they did something in their animal forms? Because that, or like, I don't know. How does that work?
I don't know. We're gonna need to know Poppy's animal form first.
Yes.
And then maybe we can draw a chart.
We can draw a chart. Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay, is the Casteel related to Eddie's? So we know from Nektas that Casteel reminds him of someone he's descended from. And I mean, we still think it's Eddie's. We're really hoping that Nektas was not referring to Nektas because that's too far.
Too close to home.
Too close to home. It makes sense, like, with the horse name chosen. It also makes sense, I think, with just, like, some of Casteel's personality reminds me a lot of Eddie's. That at least we've seen so far. I do hate him at the end of A Light in the Flame.
Yeah. Not the best at the end.
Okay.
Yes. Is Poppy going into stasis? Yes, she does. Absolutely. And we know it's going to happen, even though we hated it. But she's there. And then she wakes up. But we don't know if she remembers anything. That sucks.
Or if she's going to be a good primal or a bad primal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of new theories from this book, why does Sarah hate the Revenant so much? Like, what's personal about that? So, we know that Revenants are abominations, and as the primal life, she would feel that way, right? Because she's the one that gives life. I have zero ideas why it would be like she would take it personal. Like zero. I have no theories on this.
No idea. I'm wondering if it has something to do with like her sister.
Maybe. Or is there must be something else that happens in the Flesh and Fire series, like in book 3 or book 4 that we haven't read yet. Hopefully that tells us. Because like right now, I'm like, I am grasping at straws. Like I didn't even have a crazy idea to suggest.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I was just trying to think of people who like she loved and like maybe would have betrayed her or in some way or
I don't know.
Remember when she brings back
Marisol?
Yeah. Maybe Marisol comes back as a Revenant.
As a Revenant? That would be horrible.
What if like Marisol's like the first Revenant? But she's not.
She's not because Colin is, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see. Okay. What is the truth about Shay that Casteel and Kieran mentioned? Okay. What else could it be? It's like we learned she made a deal with the Ascended to save herself instead of Casteel. Poppy already knows that and knows that Casteel killed Shay. So like what is left? The only hint we get in the book is that Casteel descended into madness when he learned of Shay's betrayal. So like is it possible like he drained her blood completely and like maybe she's still alive and she's being held captive by the Ascended? Is she a Revenant now? But
how would he make a Revenant?
No, he can't make a Revenant. I don't know. Okay. But potentially there's something there that like he's going to have to tell Poppy and she's, I'm sure, going to be pissed and probably be a little bit stabby about it, you know. What if she is still alive? I feel like that's the only thing that like Shay is still alive.
Somehow.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But how would he know that? I don't know.
Maybe they did do some kind of joining and they can tell. No, that doesn't work.
No. Oh, what if she came back to life? Do you know when everyone died in the Bone Temple? What if Shay came back to life somehow?
Ooh.
Because like everyone died and then they brought them back to life. I assumed that was only from the people that died in the Bone Temple. What if more people came back to life?
What if Alistair came back to life?
Oh, fuck it. No, not acceptable.
That'd be bad. What if Alistair was that creepy guy that, like, flew in? Because he's wearing, like, the similar mask. He's part of, like, that same, like, crazy cult that Alistair is a part of.
Oh, fuck my life. I hope not. God, I can't deal with more Alistair.
No.
I don't like this theory.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's really good,
it
but
could
like
happen.
Personally, it could definitely happen. It sounds like perfect for the series, but I'm also like, fucking Alistair. We still have fucking Column. I can't have two fucking like, I feel like I can only hate one bad guy at a time because we also have Colas, but like there's only one person I can say fucking their name in a book at a time.
I know, right? Too many.
There might be too many in this one. Okay, so is Casteel a god? Yes. We're thinking he might actually be a primal. And this could be the result of the joining, which is like kind of where at least the ability to shift to a cave cat, Kieran and Casteel are thinking it's because of the joining. I think it's more likely because he's a descendant of a god or a primal. Because there are a couple of mentions of primal instinct in the book, which feels intentional. We have the Revenant calling him a false primal. We see him shift into a cave cat, which is something that primals can do that Nektas told us earlier. So, if that's the case, does that mean that Kieran could also be a primal?
Ooh. Or
is it different because he's a being of two worlds?
Yeah. Can that exist?
I don't know.
Honestly, anything can exist because Poppy's not supposed to exist. So
that's true.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Speaking of Poppy, will she remember anyone when she wakes up? Or is she just going to be like complete amnesia? I'm hoping that she does remember everybody because I'm like, please, Jennifer Armentrout, don't do us dirty. Like, emotionally destroy us from the very beginning of the primal of blood and bone. Please don't do that. I don't know. I I do expect to be destroyed by this book at some point. It's just going to happen. But just please don't do it from the beginning. Like, let us know. So it's possible I think she's going to need some help remembering some things, similar to how Casteel needs Kieran to talk him through everything when he shifts it into a cave cat. Or, here's a crazy theory. She comes back with the soul of Serafina. Or no, of Satoria.
We're going to talk about that in a second because I think that's what's going on. Okay, we're going to skip to it right now.
I'm shaking the world. Okay, let's take it.
So that's my crazy theory. What if she has Satoria's soul? Okay.
Yes.
It sounds crazy, but here's the thing that we know. Her soul is in Sarah at the end of A Light in the Flame. However, when the creepy Revenant sang the Poppy song and talked about how he's waited so long for what is his, we know he has to be talking about Colas. Mm-hmm. We also know that Poppy heard the song when she almost died, which would mean that like her soul was getting close. Maybe she was getting close to like dying and her, remember she said she's like in that space where it feels like she's swimming or something and she hears it.
Yeah.
So maybe her soul is getting ready to leave her body. And we know that there have been numerous signs tying Poppy to Colas. And the Poppy song is more than her just being the harbinger of death. So I think Satoria's soul is in Poppy. And I think Colas is going to
trying to steal.
I think he's trying to get Satoria back.
But it's like, okay, he's trying to steal. So is he trying to steal, they think, like, the soul from her? Or, like, the embers?
I don't think he's the one the embers. I think he wants Satoria. I think he wants the love of his life that never loved him. Right?
She's just not that into you, dude. She does not want to be with you. No means no.
But that's what I think. I think she has Satoria's soul in her.
That's so funny.
I don't know how it got out of Sarah and into Poppy.
Maybe when Sarah went into like full-on stasis, the soul, since it technically wasn't like bound to her body, it like
released. It's also possible, like, because we know she has to survive. Something has to happen. She either has to survive her ascension because Nikos is able to love her somehow, even though he doesn't have his cardia, or there's like, we've talked about maybe the heartmate trials or something happening. Like something happens so Sarah becomes the true primal of life. So maybe when that happens, her Satoria's soul leaves.
Yeah.
But at some point, like I think Poppy may have Satoria's soul.
Yeah.
Now, whether she has two souls in her, like Sarah does, I don't know.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if Colas is trying to get Poppy because it's Satoria's soul and he loves her? We are going to see an unhinged Casteel and Kieran.
She wakes up as Satoria. That's why her eyes are different. And Poppy's soul is trapped inside there.
Oh, fuck. That would be bad.
And maybe she has like moments where like her eyes turn green again and she's like Poppy again. But then like Satoria's like, I've been silent for too long and comes back.
Is that why at the end of the War of Two Queens, Nektas says that Poppy has to kill Colas? Like she's the only one. What if it's not Poppy? What if it's Satoria who has to kill Colas? Because she's part of... Fuck. I really like this and I'm also terrified to read this now.
I'm like, oh no. Okay, let's go back to one happy thing really quick. Okay. So could Poppy, Casteel, and Kieran all be heartmates? Maybe. Yeah, okay. Let's go with that. Happy things. So we know Reaver refers to Kieran as Poppy's Wolven multiple times in the War of Two Queens, and Nektas can sense that the three of them are joined. But what if it's more than that? You know, like we know from this book that Kieran saw Poppy for who she really was and was very protective of her, like long before all of that happened. So could they have three heartmates? Or what if his heartmate is Satoria, which is in Poppy's soul? Or dude, things are getting twisted, man.
Things are getting twisted, which is why I'm like, that's probably what's gonna happen.
Who knows?
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you don't know this because you never read Twilight.
No.
But
if this helps, my daughter has read Twilight and my son is reading Twilight right now.
Okay. So basically in like the last book, Breaking Dawn, there's a reason why oh my god, why am I blanking? Team Jacob, yes. Oh, see, okay. You know that. Okay, good.
I know that.
So Jacob,
I mean, I can't tell you which one is which.
Okay, Jacob's the wolf. He's the werewolf. So Wolfen, if you will.
I didn't even know there was werewolves in this book.
Yes. Oh my God. That's why I'm like, this is so familiar. So like Bella is the human and Edward is the vampire. And okay. Basically, Jacob says he always felt a pull towards Bella, that he was like, I feel like she's like my soulmate. She's like the person I'm going to imprint on. And it turns out that his soulmate, his imprint, was actually her daughter. So she was pregnant. And when the baby is born, when like Jacob sees the baby for the first time, he like immediately imprints on her and falls in love with her. So he's like, that's why I felt this pull to you, Bella. But it's like a weird thing. But like when she grows up, it's more appropriate. But it's like their souls meet for the first time. So it's like maybe there is another part of like a soul in Poppy, like Satoria or something. Or maybe Poppy's pregnant, or who knows? Like there's like a thing also inside of her that's drawing other people to like feel like they're heartmates or like connected to her in a certain way. Like all will be revealed in time of like why people feel connected.
Hopefully in the next book.
Hopefully. Or you know what? I just went to crazy town and it's just like I brought Twilight into this. But the Twilight reference is legit.
We are going to have so many. I feel like the next book, I know we read like Visions of Flesh and Fire, which is kind of like considered like 5.5. And then we get The Primal of Blood and Bone next month, which we know is not the final book. So we're going to have so many unhinged theories, I feel like, after reading that one. Okay. But in terms of, we are very unhinged right now. What's next? If you enjoyed this book, obviously you should read the rest of the series with us and the prequel series. We're super obsessed with this world. We're covering all the episodes on all the books. We cannot wait for the new book to come out. We still have 3 more books to cover. Visions of Flesh and Fire and from the series, and then the 2 remaining books in the Flesh and Fire series that we're going to have out between now and before the next book comes out.
Mm-hmm. And then join us later this week when we dive into the world of contemporary romance and discuss Only in Your Dreams by Ellie K. Wilde. But then we'll also be back on August 27th with an episode covering the 3rd book in the Flesh and Fire series, like she mentioned, A Fire in the Flesh by Jennifer Armentrout. Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading. Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.